Chapter 1827. When Zhang Shaoshan fell, he grabbed onto the edge of the cliff. His legs were weak and his face was purple. Boom! Zhu Tianhe's body fell, he didn't even have the chance to escape. Boom! Zhang Shaoshan was furious, he broke the support point under his feet and rushed to the top of the cliff. Seeing Yi Qinghan and the rest leaving, he was furious. Pang pang pang. Boom! The giant praying mantis swaggered off. In this rugged and winding ravine, it was definitely much faster than the lower-level humans. Behind and to the left, there were still experts from the other two sects, but they were left behind by the giant praying mantis. The four experts looked at Yi Qinghan's back view, they were unwilling and chose to stop. Qi Shuihen, Zhang Shaoshan, and the rest gathered together and quickly drew a map of this place. Let's work together and block him. They're definitely not as familiar with this place as we are. As long as we block him, they won't be able to escape. Qi Shuihen suggested coldly. Who are those people? How come I've never seen them before? Zhang Shaoshan frowned and asked. It seemed like he didn't pay attention to the battle between Crazy Sect and Oshi Sacred Ground. Qi Shuihen snorted coldly, it's a newly risen sect called the Insane Sect. They have a total of 20 people, but their cultivation isn't weak. They lack a lower-level cultivator. Their sect leader is called Yi Qinghan, a sector lord level 9 expert. He once used 7 breaths of time to defeat Arthur Shen of the Oshi Sacred Ground. He became famous after that battle, but the 4 of us are more than enough to sweep them. Another bearded man snorted, let's not care about who they are. Let's talk about how to block them. This place is surrounded by ravines, and there are a few large canyons. Their mount should be the Golden Sky Praying Mantis. With its jumping ability, it won't be able to cross. So, if they want to enter the center, they have to go through the 9 Immortal Cloud Cave. We'll take a detour and wait for them outside the cave. Zhang Shaoshan and Qi Shuihen looked at this expert and knew that he was the 6th leader of Mount Longhu. His name was Dragon 6, and his meteor hammer technique had reached the peak of perfection. He was a top lower-level expert, and even a veteran lower-level expert like Qi Shuihen might not be his match. As for the other blue-clothed scholar, he was a famous Buddha-faced but devil-hearted person. He called himself Scholar Stone Snow and loved beautiful scenery, poetry, and song lyrics. However, others called him Scholar Bloodthirsty. When he killed people, he would massacre cities at the slightest provocation. He wouldn't even spare a 3-year-old child. Although he looked kind, those who truly understood him didn't want to provoke him. Scholar Shi Shui was an elder of the Demonic Dragon Sect. The Demonic Dragon Sect was originally a branch of the Heavenly Demon Cult. Later on, the Heavenly Demon Cult fell apart. Without the suppression of the Holy Land, the Demonic Dragon Sect became even more aggressive. They devoured the territories within a radius of tens of millions of miles. No one dared to resist, and most of the credit went to Scholar Shi Shui. At this moment, Scholar Shi Shui's lips curled into a cold smile. He drew an arc on the map and said indifferently, this is a shortcut. I took it 100,000 years ago. Although it's a little dangerous, we can reach the 9th Immortal Cloud Cave before them. At this moment, the experts of the 4 major sects had already caught up to them. Zhang Shaoshan and the others immediately ordered them to chase after Quan Zong on the main road. The 4 of them rushed into the distance like lightning. Yi Qinghan didn't know that the 4 major experts had joined forces, and he didn't know that they would block him in front. He was moving quickly, searching for divine herbs in the surroundings. Along the way, he encountered a few small sections. Finally, he stopped hesitating and directly robbed them. However, he only wanted money and resources, not lives. The small sects only had 1 lower-level expert, and some sects didn't even have one. As long as the strongest expert was suppressed, the rest were just a bunch of ants. Almost no lower-level expert was a match for Zhou Yi. Not to mention, Yi Qinghan and Lin Wuqian were helping him from the side. Basically, they were killed instantly. The Quang Zone ran rampant all the way. As long as they didn't encounter people from the major sects, they were unscrupulous. However, Yi Qinghan's divine sense was still considered strong, and he could completely avoid harm. The group of people was mighty, and they saw thousands of mountains and rivers. Waterfalls fell from the sky, and celestial qi filled the air. They couldn't wait to take root here. However, this place was not suitable for human survival because the powerful ferocious beasts had yet to appear. When they reached the hinterland, they would find that humans were too weak here. If the Quang Zone lived here for 100,000 years, not even their bones would be left. Zhou Yi observed the terrain as he walked. He came here once in 100,000 years, and he had only come here twice. This was the third time. Things were still there, but people had changed. Some of the earth's crust was changing, and he had no idea where the road was. After walking for half a month, they came to a steep canyon. It was thousands of feet wide, and the cliff was steep without any support. The bottom was unfathomable, and it was pitch black. If they fell, they would definitely die. Even birds were unwilling to fly above, as if it was a forbidden area. In desperation, the Quang Zone people had to change their direction again and continue to look for a route. However, Zhang Shaoshan and the other experts had already bypassed the main road and ventured into the Nine Immortals Cloud Cave through the small path. In the Nine Immortals Cloud Cave, red clouds filled the sky, and the clouds formed a strange vision. They were like powerful immortals who had not changed their appearance all year round. The huge caves seemed to have been excavated by the immortals, running through the canyon. Looking from afar, this place was easy to defend and difficult to attack. Many birds and beasts occupied this place and lived here. If a human entered a dead cave, there would be nothing left. They would be devoured by the flock of birds. There were many dead caves. Among so many caves, only 3 to 5 could go through to the hinterland. If they didn't go through the Nine Immortals Cloud Cave, they would have to take a detour for hundreds of years. No one was willing to do that. The 4 experts had already appeared outside the Nine Immortals Cloud Cave. They stared at the majestic stone statues in the canyon. These statues were like giants, and their movements were unpredictable, as though they were practicing supreme secret arts. Every movement was vivid and lifelike. However, no one was able to comprehend the secret arts from these statues. The 4 experts looked at these sculptures in boredom as they waited for Yi Qinghan. Who do you think carved these sculptures here? Zhang Shaoshan was the youngest, and he had only been here once. He didn't get here last time. Now that he saw these sculptures, he couldn't help but ask in shock. Even though Long Lu had been here a few times, he was still stunned when he saw these sculptures again. The majestic sculptures had a majestic aura, as if they carried the boundless vastness of heaven and earth. It made people feel reverence. It must be the work of a supreme eternal sovereign. Upper-level experts shouldn't have the ability to carve so many sculptures here, and they also contain profound mysteries that even we can't comprehend. Scholar Shi Shui gazed at the hundreds of towering sculptures and said with reverence. Qi Shuihen looked around. He vaguely remembered that when he came here last time, he wasn't an elder, and was only a disciple. After 100,000 years, the heaven and earth changed, but this place was still the same. The waterfall was high in the sky, and the birds flew in the sky. The crisp sound of birds echoed in the canyon, melodious and pleasant. People like him who comprehended the origin of water liked this kind of environment the most. Chapter 1828. The deep canyon stretched from north to south, stretching endlessly. Even the gods would feel despair. Hua! Grains of sand and stones fell, cutting through the space below the canyon. It was extremely ear-piercing. Woo-woo-woo! The wind blew under the canyon, unable to disperse. It hit the cliff, and the sound echoed for a long time. Yi Qinghan led the insane sect, Wuxia, and Wuxia forward carefully, afraid of falling into the canyon. Screech! Birds swooped down from the sky, their sharp claws breaking the shackles. The weaker sector lords couldn't defend themselves in time and either fell into the canyon or were taken away by the birds. There were many strong warriors moving forward alone, and it was even more dangerous. Yi Qinghan held the holy bow in his hand, and blue flames surrounded him. He stared at the sky, afraid that the birds would suddenly attack. The insane sect was crowded, and once they were frightened, many people might fall into the canyon. Yi Qinghan and Zhou Yi guarded the front and back respectively. Lin Wutian and Gu Qin walked on both sides, and Jiang Jingtian was in the middle. The defense was especially tight. Boom boom boom. Dong dong dong. Some hurried sounds were like thousands of horses galloping, and the mountains and rivers were in chaos. Broken sand and stones fell along the side of the canyon. Yi Qinghan and the rest frowned and looked to the west. They saw thousands of beasts, and the birds roared into the sky as if they were frightened. Be careful, there are strong sects approaching, and there are many of them. Zhou Yi immediately reminded them. Yi Qinghan was shocked, and he quickly headed to the west. After crossing a valley, he looked to the west and saw at least 3,000 strong warriors riding on flying beasts. They were the strong sects that were looking for the gold-devouring toad a few days ago. They are really persistent. Luckily, the lower realms aren't here. Wait, they are here. Where did the 4 lower realms go? The divine bird asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan squinted at the strong warriors rushing over. He pulled his bow and grabbed some branches to use as arrows. Xiao! Screeched. The sound of the arrow broke through the void and resounded through the Milky Way. Bang! The first arrow pierced through a strong sector lord level 9 expert, and then into the throat of a huge beast behind him. Roar! Ah! The sector lord level 9 clutched his chest and screamed. He watched as his life force dissipated and he couldn't even release his last bit of will. He could only wait for death in despair. Boom! The huge beast behind sector lord level 9 fell to the ground, causing the surrounding beasts to scatter. The expert on its back was flung away and fell off the cliff. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, Yi Qinghan once again grabbed some dried tree branches. He then knocked more arrows onto his bow, and the string of his holy bow was about to snap. Shoo! Shoo! In the blink of an eye, at least 300 experts were attacked or affected, suffering heavy losses. However, there were at least a few thousand people in the 4 major sections. 300 or so people wouldn't be a big deal and would only anger them. At this moment, the beasts and birds were roaring and the mountains and rivers were agitated. It was as if there was a beast tide. Even more native beasts were frightened and rushed towards Yi Qinghan's direction. With Yi Qinghan's speed, it was impossible for him to kill all the beasts. Fuck! Let's hide! The divine bird cried out in panic. Yi Qinghan frowned and scolded, how can we hide? There's still insane sect behind us. Boom boom boom. Roar roar roar. Tens of thousands of beasts rushed over, trampling on rocks and trees. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and kept the holy bow. His dragon blood boiled and flowed through his limbs and bones. Even his holy blood was burning. Roar. Dragon transformation technique. Yi Qinghan transformed into a heavenly dragon and rushed into the sky. Blue demon fire was attached to him, shaking the heavens and earth. Roar. The 1,000 feet long dragon roared, wanting to shake the beasts off and escape. Roar. A roar filled the galaxy, causing the weaker beasts to kneel down. Pang pang pang. Boom. Some beasts and birds couldn't stop in time and fell to the ground. Screams filled the air as the birds fell. Boom. Hua. Yi Qinghan used Dragon Tail Strike to sweep across the 4 major sections. Xiu xiu xiu. There were quite a number of experts in the four major sects team. Many of them were on par with Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu. At this moment, they pulled out their swords and stepped on the heads of the beasts and soared into the sky. Their sharp sword qi tore through the sky. Xiu. More than 10 of them joined forces and attacked Yi Qinghan. They broke through all the restrictions and were unstoppable. Yi Qinghan quickly returned to his original form. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed a withered branch and transformed it into an ancient ominous weapon. He charged into the group of enemies at lightning speed, constantly dodging the experts and attacking the weak at the rear. Puchi. Boom. In an instant, Yi Qinghan was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. He used a withered branch to kill the overlords. Blood splattered on the cliff and dyed half the sky red. Ah! Screams filled the air. Roar. Among the insane sex group, a silhouette pulled out his sword and charged into the sky. The sword rainbow pierced through Go Di, crushing the will of all enemies. With a thunderous force, he broke through the defense of a peak sector lord level 9 and pierced Go Di's throat. Puchi. A sector lord level 9 expert died in an instant. Even in death, he couldn't believe that the young man in front of him could kill him in one strike. Lin Wuxian was expressionless. He waved his hand and pulled out his sword. No one was a match for his sword. Most of them didn't even have the chance to use their sword before their throats were pierced through. Only a drop of blood flowed down the tip of the sword. It was extremely eye-catching. Hum. Boom. Jiang Jingtian's spear pierced through the mountains and rivers and charged into the battlefield. The three war gods swept through the surroundings. One spear, one sword, and one withered branch, killing all the overlords in the world. These strong sects were all dragons and phoenixes among men. Unfortunately, they were weak in the hands of these three. Swoosh. 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 The withered branch in Yi Qinghan's hand broke apart, turning into countless light spots that shot out in all directions with the blue demon fire. It attacked almost indiscriminately into everyone's body. The sector lord level experts couldn't resist the 5th grade saint fire at all. Yi Qinghan. How dare you kill my sect's disciples? When my senior brother returns, you'll die without a doubt. The Tai Lai sect's disciple roared. The 6th master won't let you off. The Longhu sect's disciple roared. Only half of the 3,000 disciples had come. Now that their formation had been disrupted, they couldn't resist Yi Qinghan at all. Hand over the gold-devouring toad and I'll spare your life. The Red Water sect's disciple was still overbearing and arrogant. Yi Qinghan sneered. He waved his hand and summoned the 7-foot berserk hammer. His body grew taller, and his giant blood cells began to divide infinitely. Hum. Whoosh. The white blade light tore through the void with an indestructible blade aura, causing the experts' scalps to tingle. You've picked the wrong person. You've come to rob me, and I've always robbed you of everything. Are you going to hand over your storage rings and money, or do you want me to kill you and slowly search for them? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Swoosh. Swoosh. The experts of the strong sects quickly gathered and stared at Yi Qinghan. Their expressions changed. Half of the 4 sects had come. Even so, there were still more than 5,000 people. Now that more than 600 had been killed, the remaining 4,000 didn't dare to make a move. Chapter 1829. Boom. Yi Qinghan stepped on the rocks and crushed them. He, Lin Wuxian, and Jiang Jingtian moved forward in a triangular formation. Their aura soared to the sky and suppressed the fighting spirit of the 4 strongest sections. It was unrealistic to kill all 4,000 people with the insane sect's small number of people. It was impossible to kill half of them. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He only wanted to rob these people. Resources were good things. Only those that he robbed would belong to him. As long as he left the secret realm, the strong sects would not be able to cross over and take revenge on them. Do you want to hand over your storage rings or do you want us to kill you? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. The faces of the experts from the 4 strongest sects turned pale. They had more than 5,000 people when they came. Now, there were only 4,000 left. Even so, they were many times more than the insane sect. Now, they were robbed by Yi Qinghan and the other 2. The key was that no expert dared to resist. The rest of the insane sect did not make a move. Zhou Yi wanted to protect the weaker members of the insane sect. Otherwise, with the 4 of them, they could break up the alliance of the 4 strongest sections. The insane sect did not want to die. They could not afford to sacrifice too few people. Yi Qinghan continued to move forward. He did not care about this group of people at all. A true king of soldiers would not be afraid even in the face of thousands of enemies of the same level. Because in their eyes, anyone of the same level was just an ant. Whoosh! The experts of the 4 strongest sects retreated one after another, unwilling to fight against Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! 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 The star-twining vine rushed out of its body and wrapped around the cliff. It kept spreading in all directions. The corpses of the experts were its favorite, especially those killed by Lin Wujian. Although their vitality was gone, they did not lose much blood. Hiss! Hiss! Countless vines devoured the blood and flesh of the corpses. After a while, only some withered bones were left. They were thrown off the cliff by the star-twining vine. Many experts were shocked and broke out in cold sweat. Put down all your storage rings and I'll let you leave. You have 1 incense stick's worth of time. Otherwise, I'll start a massacre. Yi Qinghan said coldly. The 4th-ranked disciple of the Crimson Water sect, Chen Wulei, stared at Yi Qinghan and quietly said, Yi Qinghan, don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you defeated God Arthur. How can an uncivilized savage compare to a disciple from the Eastern Sacred Land? You want to snatch our thousands of disciples? Do you have the life to snatch them? Do you have the life to spend them? Yi Qinghan shrugged and replied indifferently, you don't have to worry about whether I'll be alive to spend it. After you snatch it, you'll know whether I'll have the chance to spend it or not. If you want to rob us, you have to at least get my permission. I really want to know if the man who used 7 breaths to suppress Arthur can use 7 breaths to suppress me. Chen Wulei quietly said. Yi Qinghan sneered and looked at Chen Wulei. He was only the 4th-ranked disciple of the Crimson Water sect. His cultivation was clearly much lower than Arthur's. He only needed 7 breaths to deal with Arthur, but he could kill him with 1 slash. Then I'll send you on your way. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped on the mountain rocks and his long saber slashed through the void. Waves of energy spread out for thousands of miles. The world submitted to him and the order of all things changed with a single thought. Whoosh! The saber light shocked the heavens and slashed at Chen Wulei with the force of a thunderbolt. It was extremely imposing and carried an irresistible will as it arrived in front of Chen Wulei. At this moment, Chen Wulei was alarmed. He finally understood that the 2 of them weren't on the same level. His big hand grasped the hilt of his sword, but he didn't have the courage to draw it. Boom! At the last moment, Chen Wulei raised his sword to his side, hoping to block Yi Qinghan's saber. Whoosh! Chen Wulei was like a withered leaf. He was blown away by the energy and the sharp sword in his hand was cut in half. Boom! Chen Wulei's body crashed into a small hill, causing the rocks to shatter and his qi and blood to roll over. Yi Qinghan put away his saber in disdain and said, if you provoke me again, the price is death. I won't say it a 3rd time. Put down your storage rings within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn and then scram. Otherwise, I'm not sure how many of you can escape. Chen Wulei climbed out of the hill with great difficulty. His whole body was trembling. If Yi Qinghan hadn't held back a bit, that saber strike would have killed him. The aura of death enveloped him and caused his Tao heart to rumble. He was on the verge of going crazy. Chen Wulei looked at Yi Qinghan in horror. He felt a pressure that he couldn't even feel from the chief disciple of the Crimson Water sect. He didn't dare to resist and immediately put the storage rings on a flat ground in front of Yi Qinghan. He then turned around and fled into the distance. Yi Qinghan didn't stop him and coldly looked at the others. Although Chen Wulei couldn't compare to Yi Qinghan, he was still very strong compared to the others. The true experts of the strong sects had followed their chief disciples to fight for the true treasures with the sacred grounds and the 100 great clans. There were more than 4,000 people here, but none of them was a top-level existence. Since Chen Wulei had compromised, the others didn't dare to resist. They all handed over their storage rings and quickly left. Each of them handed over 3 to 5 storage rings. A small hill quickly piled up in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and put all the storage rings into his sleeve. The 4 experts originally wanted to rob Yi Qinghan, but unfortunately, he was robbed by 3 other people. Their expressions turned ugly and they didn't want to mention this matter again. If this matter was spread out, the 4 sects would become the laughingstock of many other sects and sacred grounds. The insane sect's people watched the strong sects leave and quickly rushed towards the 9 Immortals' cloud cave. A doubt lingered in Yi Qinghan's mind. Where did the 4 lower realm experts of the 4 sects go? Zhou Yi was also a little uneasy. He was not afraid of the enemies in front of him, but he was afraid of the hidden enemies. Will they take a detour to the 9 Immortals' cloud cave to stop us? That's the place we must pass to enter the hinterland. Zhou Yi reminded vigilantly. Yi Qinghan wasn't sure. At this moment, he was thinking about the strength of the insane sect's people. Could they resist the encirclement of the lower realm experts of the 4 sects? Zhou Yi can deal with one, and I can deal with one with the Rui Bell. But the lower realm is the lower realm after all. They are from a strong sect. Even if Wu Tian and Jing Tian join forces, it's impossible to deal with a lower realm expert of a strong sect. Yi Qinghan frowned and thought. If the other party was really waiting there, they could only use the blood power elixir and blood boosting saint elixir. However, using those things would leave them exhausted for several days. If they entered the hinterland again, it would be too dangerous. Senior, if you and I join forces to launch a sneak attack, can we kill a lower realm expert of a strong sect in an instant? Yi Qinghan asked in a serious voice. Zhou Yi thought for a moment and said with some uncertainty, I don't know how much help you can provide. I can't be sure. If we kill a lower realm expert in an instant, with our group, we can fight against 3 lower realm experts. Yi Qinghan nodded and had a general understanding. He said, let's go to the 9 Immortals' cloud cave. The worst case scenario is to use the blood boosting saint elixir and blood power elixir. The group sped up. With the help of the giant mantis, it was unknown who would win or lose. In the end, it was also unknown who would rob who. Chapter 1830. The Arcana land was like spring all year round. The mountains stretched on, the willows were green, and the flowers were red. Celestial chi filled the sky, and the sun shone brightly. Roar! Some ferocious beasts traversed the mountaintops. Even if they could not fly, they could still traverse thousands of meters in the mountains and valleys. Their limbs were thick and strong, and they were stronger and more ferocious than human lower plane cultivators. It was common to see some terrifying ferocious beasts destroying small sections. Even the lower plane cultivators could not escape. The crazy sect was especially vigilant. They were lucky now. Perhaps it was because there were not many of them, but few lower plane ferocious beasts targeted them. Brother Yi, can you help us catch a lower plane ferocious beast as a mount? Wu Qin was envious of the giant praying mantis. She stuck out her tongue and asked. Yi Qinghan shrugged, indicating that he could not help. It was a coincidence that he could use the Rui Bell to suppress the giant praying mantis. If he wanted to suppress a powerful lower plane ferocious beast, he would be injured even if he did not die. Yi Qinghan looked at Wu Qin's disappointed expression and said softly, if there's a chance, we can bring the ferocious beasts out. It would be great if we could catch a middle plane ferocious beast. The couple was right in front of him, but Yi Qinghan didn't know that Wu Qin was Emperor Ye's reincarnation. Otherwise, he would have gotten her a mid-level ferocious beast as her guardian beast even if he had to die in battle. The group chatted as they harvested divine herbs. Occasionally, they would come across small sects and clans that were wiped out by ferocious beasts. They would bury them and make a fortune out of the dead. In order to build a strong sect, it was impossible to do so without tens of billions of assets. Along the way, Yi Qinghan tortured the gold-devouring toad to the brink of death before releasing it. The gold-devouring toad was quite intelligent. With a few words from the divine bird, its brain was filled with paste. Its intelligence was different, so it suppressed the gold-devouring toad. In the end, it did not even have the will to resist and followed Yi Qinghan wholeheartedly. The chaos beast and the gold-devouring toad had similar functions. However, the chaos beast's bloodline level was much lower than the gold-devouring toad's. It was like one was a professional and the other was an amateur. In front of the gold-devouring toad, the chaos beast, the gold-devouring toad's life. With the help of the gold-devouring toad, Yi Qinghan was confident that he could make a fortune in this secret realm. If we encounter any small sects in the future, don't kill or rob them. We need people to mine. Yi Qinghan reminded. Understood. Everyone was quite happy and excited. Yi Qian, Zhou, and the giant mantis, Zhou, Yi, and the giant mantis. They were met, Yi, and the Yi, Day. And the gold, Day, divine, Day. The purple gold tiger king was incomparably huge. It was as huge as an elephant. Its 4 limbs were thick and strong, and with a swing of its claws, it could break a mountain. Its movements were nimble and vigorous, and it could climb mountains as if it was walking on flat ground. Yi Qinghan sat alone on the back of the gold-devouring tiger. The divine bird tried to persuade the Tiger King to become its underling several times, but to no avail. How could the proud Tiger King submit to a rookie little bird? Roar! The gold-devouring tiger's roar shook the mountains and rivers. Thousands of beasts submitted to it. Whoosh! The Tiger King brought Yi Qinghan and quickly rushed towards the 9 Immortals' cloud cave. Along the way, they subdued another huge male lion. There was no need for anyone else to make a move. Yi Qinghan cooperated with the purple gold Tiger King to suppress it. The Lion King's body was golden. Under the sun, the golden light was even more intense. The Lion King became Lin Wuqian's mount. The 3 lower realm giant beasts led less than 30 people from the Kuang sect to the 9 Immortals' cloud cave. Even if the other party really intercepted them there were only 4 lower realm giant beasts and 2 giant beasts. On the Kuang sect side, there were 3 lower realm giant beasts. In addition to Zhou Yi, Yi Qinghan, and Lin Wuqian, the others joined forces to deal with 1 lower realm giant beast. It was enough to crush them. Roar! The rainbow light above the 9 Immortals' cloud cave covered the mountains and rivers. It penetrated the 9 heavens and was within reach. Yi Qinghan rode the gold-devouring tiger and rushed to the 9 Immortals' cloud cave with his bare hands. Against a lower realm giant beast, the 7-foot berserker was useless. The most important thing was the Rui Bell. The canyon was curved. When it reached the 9 Immortals' cloud cave, it turned east. Statues bathed in the evening sun, majestic and solemn. From afar, the space was distorted as if the statues were moving. Yi Qinghan looked at the statues and was suddenly shocked. He quickly called Lin Wuqian to the front and whispered, "Look at the moves of those statues. Why do they look so familiar?" After Lin Wuqian saw it, his eyes flashed. He suddenly rushed to the sky and waved his long sword on the mountain peak. It was exactly the same as the sword moves of the statues. This was a sword move that evolved in the underground palace. It was this sword move that made Lin Wuqian transform into an existence that killed Yega Saint with one sword move. This statue was created by the expert who killed the eternal sovereign in the underground palace. Yi Qinghan squinted and said to himself in shock. Except for Lin Wuqian, no one knew what happened in the underground palace. However, Gu Qingyu and the other sword experts understood this sword move. After all, Lin Wuqian taught them without reservation. Even if their talent was not as good as Lin Wuqian, when Lin Wuqian used it again, they were suddenly enlightened. They waved their divine swords and the sword rainbow tore the sky. Wu Wu Wu. Sword chi stirred up the raging wind, especially Lin Wuqian, who almost soared into the sky. Every sword move had an irreversible sword momentum. The speed was getting faster and faster. He was almost a lower realm expert. He was only half a step away from breaking through. Yi Qinghan was not surprised but happy. He hoped that Lin Wuqian could surpass his master. Since childhood, he had treated Lin Wuqian like his own son. If Lin Wuqian could become an eternal sovereign, he would definitely support him. Zhou Yi looked at Lin Wuqian, Gu Qingyu, and the others in shock. The momentum of Mu Zhuang's life source wooden sword did not lose to the other experts. He could not help but say in amazement, "Where did you find so many sword experts? Lin Wuqian, this child, must be the most talented among you. He may be the first to step into the lower realm." Yi Qinghan smiled happily and said, "Most of these people were acquainted with me when I was very young. We fought side by side and grew up together. Especially Wuqian, I watched him grow up. If he is the first to reach the lower realm, I will be very happy. A group of monsters, you have the foundation to become a strong sect." Zhou Yi had to admit that this group of people could create a powerful sect, and even give birth to a holy land. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he stared at Lin Wuqian and the others who were waving their swords. In his heart, he wanted to win over Zhou Yi. Although he was a peak lower realm expert, his talent was not bad. It was easy for him to reach the middle realm. There was also a certain possibility for him to reach the upper realm. "Senior Zhou, why don't you join the crazy sect and become its great elder? Watching a strong sect grow up is much more interesting than being a rogue cultivator." Yi Qinghan asked expectantly. Chapter 1831. Zhou Yi smiled. He was used to being idle and had no interest in being a supreme elder. However, seeing that the Kuang sect had the capital to become a sacred land, he was tempted. "Let me think about it." Zhou Yi stared at Lin Wuqian's back. In fact, he was most optimistic about Lin Wuqian's talent. This kind of person had unlimited potential and was too terrifying. Once he was targeted by a true expert of the younger generation, the Kuang sect would suffer a devastating blow. Zhou Yi was experienced and knowledgeable. He also understood the rules of the great world. The Kuang sect's future victory was because of Lin Wuqian, and its destruction might also be because of him. If he followed the Kuang sect, he would either become an upper realm that he could never reach in his lifetime or be implicated and die tragically. Yi Qinghan saw that Zhou Yi didn't directly refuse and understood. He didn't continue to ask. At this moment, Lin Wuqian's sword force had exceeded the limit of the 9th layer of the Sector Lord realm. A wisp of sword chi could cut through rocks and ancient trees 100 meters away. Boom. Hum. A sword broke through the 9 heavens, and everything in the 10 directions bowed down. Boom. Lin Wuqian's sword pierced out, and his aura soared. He officially broke through the 9th layer of the Sector Lord realm and entered the lower realm. It gave people an irresistible aura. Even Zhou Yi, a veteran lower realm expert, felt a little frightened. It was as if he would die if Lin Wuqian attacked. Yi Qinghan excitedly clenched his fist. The Kuang sect finally had a lower realm expert of their own. Li Feng, Gu Qingyu, Mu Zhuang and the others' sword techniques were similar to Lin Wuqian's, but they still lacked the essence. This was where Lin Wuqian's talent lay. Wang. Hum. Just as Lin Wuqian broke through, the melody of heaven and earth resounded. It was as if the sword was singing, and the heaven and earth were singing. The sword trembled, and a green lotus appeared. It carried a monstrous majesty. The sword pierced out, and the green lotus stepped on the heavenly song, wanting to destroy all enemies. No one could stop it. Boom! Hum. Gu Qingyu, Li Feng and the others couldn't control their swords anymore. They all flew out of their hands. Thousand Swords Imperial Greeting. Hua! Fortunately, Lin Wuqian's control wasn't too strong. Otherwise, he would have alerted the 9 Immortals' Cloud Cave. Yi Qinghan and the others were dumbfounded. This kind of sword technique was beyond the realm of nature. Presumably, after so many years, no one could comprehend the sword technique of these statues. Only a monstrous genius like Lin Wuqian could reach this level. Gu Qingyu grinned. Being surpassed by his own disciple, he actually felt indescribably happy. To be able to teach such a disciple in his lifetime, he should be perfectly satisfied. The other kendo masters were not jealous. The Kuang sect was like a family. It was a good thing for any one of them to achieve a breakthrough. With one more lower-level cultivator, their chances of survival in the Arcana territory would be greater. Shashasha. Lin Wuqian stepped on the leaves and danced around the mountains and rivers. His speed became faster and faster, almost surpassing the laws of heaven and earth. He was no longer suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth and could fly. Gu Qingyu and the others were all stunned. Lin Wuqian was dancing with the rhythm of the heavenly song. The sword light carried a wisp of green light. The green lotus could suppress everything. In the blink of an eye, it flattened a mountain. It was unstoppable. The swords in everyone's hands rose into the air as if they were facing the Emperor of Swords. It was as if they were facing the Emperor of Swords. Although Zhou Yi was an expert at the peak of the lower level, he had completely lost control at this moment. He felt that if Lin Wuqian's sword were to stab him, there would be no chance for him to dodge. Heaven and earth are long, my heart is tied to it. Sword Dao is heavy, my heart is stirred. Green Lotus Sword Song, dancing casually. Exterminating mountains and rivers, annihilating all enemies. Lin Wuqian danced with the green lotus and actually sang along with the melody. The sword power became even sharper and more soul-stealing. Gu Qingyu was intoxicated. Especially at the end, he was suddenly enlightened. His big hand subconsciously reached for his divine sword. The divine sword whistled and broke free from the control of Lin Wuqian's sword Dao. It directly returned to his hand. The solitary sword Dao's power soared into the sky and merged with the green lotus sword song, forming an even sharper and colder sword move. There was a certain difference between the sword power in Lin Wuqian's hand. It's less smooth and flowing, but more sharp and colder. Zhou Yi's big hand was trembling. He was completely stunned by the 2 sword Dao monsters. If Gu Qingyu could break through to the lower level, he might not be worse than Lin Wuqian. He might even be able to win. After all, Lin Wuqian's fighting skills were not as good as Gu Qingyu's. Gu Qingyu's speed was getting faster and faster, and his sword Dao power was getting more and more arrogant. The solitary sword Dao had an additional aura of the green lotus sword song. The combination of the 2 sword powers was almost heaven-defying. Yi Qinghan couldn't stop smiling. He wished that all his brothers could break through. It didn't matter if he was the strongest or not. There was no need to be jealous. His Tao would go further and higher sooner or later. He didn't cultivate sword Tao. If he changed to the Green Lotus sword song now, his Tao would stagnate behind his predecessors. He would never be able to surpass the creator of the Green Lotus sword song. He might even be inferior to Lin Wuqian and Gu Qingyu. Therefore, no matter how powerful the Green Lotus sword song was, he didn't want to cultivate it. Wu Qin, and Wu Sheng looked at the atmosphere of the Kuang sect and felt that it was somewhat familiar. Lightning kept flashing in their sea of consciousness. They could tear apart that memory, but it was like an insurmountable gap. It's so familiar. Wu Qin, and Wu Sheng said in unison. What's so familiar? Jian Qinxue asked with a smile. This situation is so familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere before. Wu Qin, the reincarnation of Emperor Yi, said doubtfully. Jian Qinxue couldn't imagine that Wu Qin, was the reincarnation of Emperor Yi. Therefore, he didn't suspect anything. He just patted Wu Qin's head and gently reminded her, look at the sword moves first. This is the performance of several sword Tao experts of the Kuang sect. If you can comprehend 2 or 3 moves, you will benefit immensely. Lin Wuqian gradually stopped. However, Mu Zhuang, Li Feng, Gu Qingyu, and the others danced faster and faster. However, they were still stuck in front of the lower realm and couldn't break through. Yi Qinghan's fingertips twitched. With a wave of his hand, he retrieved a guqin from his heaven and earth sleeve. This was a guqin that he had specially crafted for her. Even though Ren Huangyi was no longer around, he had subconsciously crafted a divine guqin for her. In the past, Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan's minds were connected. Emperor Yi comprehended the guqin Tao, so Yi Qinghan knew all of it. Guqin music could stimulate the qi and blood of heroes and help them to break through. Hua! Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the purple-gold Tiger King's back. He held the guqin and gently plucked the strings. The guqin music was solemn and stirred up the qi and blood of Gu Qingyu and the others. The music kept rising and roaring. Gu Qingyu and the others' sword aura suddenly increased several times. They danced with the music and became more flexible. However, the one who changed the most was Wu Qin. She looked at Yi Qinghan playing the guqin. Her tears couldn't stop flowing. She felt inexplicably sad. However, she didn't understand why she was so sad and why she felt so emotional. Wu Sheng was fine. After all, her most beautiful memory with Yi Qinghan wasn't playing the guqin. I think I know how to play the guqin, but I haven't learned it. Wu Qin muttered to herself. After saying that, Wu Qin subconsciously moved closer to Yi Qinghan. Her eyes were lifeless. Everything fell silent, immersed in the guqin Tao. No one wanted to disturb this sound of nature. Wu Qin took advantage of the moment when everyone was distracted. She jumped onto the purple-gold Tiger King's back and came behind Yi Qinghan. She reached out and pressed the strings. Yi Qinghan was stunned. The music stopped abruptly. However, Wu Qin's slender fingers continued plucking the strings. The melody was even more pleasant than Yi Qinghan's. This time, it was Yi Qinghan's turn to be shocked. Wu Qin's subconscious actions were too similar to Emperor Ye's. Especially her side profile. Yi Qinghan's mind was filled with the image of Emperor Yi. My son. Yi Qinghan's hands were trembling. Chapter 1832. My son, Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He didn't expect that the women he was looking for were Wu Qin and Wu Sheng. The others were also dumbfounded. Other than Emperor Yi, who could play the guqin so beautifully. Even though Yi Qingqing was a master of guqin, she still looked at Emperor Yi in shock. She seemed to understand why Yi Qinghan wanted to play the Sky Quiet guqin song. With the support of Emperor Ye's music, Gu Qingyu and the others were even more relaxed. They were only half a step away from breaking through and could break free at any time. Li Feng and Mu Zhuang were both masters of swordsmanship. They were obsessed with swordsmanship and were about to break through. However, even if they broke through, they were still no match for Lin Wuqian. Green Lotus Sword Song was definitely an eternal secret technique. It might even surpass the Eternal Realm. After all, the Eternal Realm corpse in the underground palace was killed by this Green Lotus Sword Song. Many small sects gathered behind them. They were slowly approaching, stunned by this sword move. They were getting closer and closer, unaware of the approaching danger. There were more and more experts around, and there were also many lower realm experts. However, none of them dared to disturb Kuang Zong's cultivation. Lin Wuqian stood behind Kuang Zong with his sword, suppressing thousands of small sects and families. Boom! Gu Qingyu's sword pierced the sky with a sharp and cold sword aura. He had officially stepped into the lower realm. Hum! Gu Qingyu put away his sword and sat down cross-legged on the mountaintop. His aura was instantly restrained as he merged with the heaven and earth. He was comprehending what he had just comprehended. His sword intent was condensing and becoming purer and purer. His sword Dao was not only the Green Lotus Sword Song, but also the Gu Sword Dao. Li Feng and Mu Zhuang were cultivating the Green Lotus Sword Song. Although they weren't as exaggerated as Lin Wuqian, their combat power was definitely not bad. Emperor Yi was still playing the guqin. The sound of the guqin became more and more urgent and tragic. It affected their blood and qi, almost burning their lives to stimulate their potential. Whoosh! Two streaks of sword light turned into green lotuses, slashing apart the two mountains in the north and south. Their qi soared into the 9 heavens. Boom! The two of them retracted their sword auras and rushed to the lower level. They stabbed their swords into the ground and sat cross-legged on the ground to comprehend the sword Dao and condense their sword intent. In a moment, 4 lower realm masters appeared in the crazy sect. Coupled with Yi Qinghan's outburst, it was equivalent to 5 real lower realm masters. Zhou Yi did not dare to say that he was the strongest among them at this moment. Zhou Yi's eyes flashed. If he didn't join the Kuang sect now, he wouldn't be able to get a high position even if he wanted to join later. Little brat Yi, I've joined the eccentric sect. Zhou Yi clenched his iron fist and said excitedly. Yi Qinghan was even happier. This was a joyous occasion, and it wasn't just one of them. The Kuang sect now had 5 true lower plane cultivators. They had found the reincarnations of Emperor Yi and Bai Shaosheng. What else could make them happier than this? Ha 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 ha, Yi Qinghan threw his head back and laughed heartily. He wished he could fly into the sky. The divine bird looked at Emperor Ye's reincarnation in a daze. He scratched his head with his little claw and said, "Is this the little master?" Emperor Yi got up and looked at the divine bird. He scratched his head. It seemed that he hadn't recovered much of his memory, but he had a special feeling for the divine bird. He suddenly shouted, "Ha, bitch bird, smack." Emperor Yi slapped the divine bird's head and sent it flying. Ouch! Bang! The divine bird rolled continuously. He was smashed until his eyes were seeing stars. He got up with great difficulty and said angrily, "You little woman, you still remember this name even after reincarnating. Have I mistreated you?" Emperor Yi became more playful and less melancholy. Perhaps the happiness of his childhood had changed his temperament. At this moment, he stuck out his tongue and turned to look at Yi Qinghan. His eyes were full of emotions. He reached out and hugged Yi Qinghan's neck. He said with tears in his eyes, "Husband, I'm back." Yi Qinghan hugged Emperor Ye's reincarnation tightly, afraid that she would disappear again. "I'm sorry for making you suffer." Yi Qinghan was so emotional that he shed tears. Fortunately, he was blocked by Emperor Yi. Otherwise, he would be laughed at by the people of the eccentric sect. "I didn't suffer. I'm very happy." I'm afraid Sister Xiaoxing won't be able to recover her memory in a short time. If I wasn't woken up by your music, I don't know when I would recover my memory, Emperor Yi said emotionally. Yi Qinghan secretly wiped his tears and looked at Bai Xiaoxing's reincarnation with a fake smile. However, she looked at her sister in confusion. She didn't know Yi Qinghan. Why did he suddenly appear as a husband? The divine bird was angry, but Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan ignored it. Everyone was silent in joy. There were too many surprises in the eccentric sect today. Congratulations, Lil Miss. Lin Wuqian was also happy, but he didn't call her master's wife. Instead, he called her Lil Miss. In his heart, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were the parents who raised him. Wuqian, I didn't expect you to grow to this point. You've surpassed your two masters. Not bad, not bad. Don't feel burdened. Your two masters won't be jealous of you. If you become an immortal, we'll be even happier. Emperor Yi said happily. Yes, Lil Miss. I'll work hard. Lin Wuqian replied happily, like a child who was praised by his parents. After a while, Gu Qingyu woke up. He retracted his aura and looked at Lin Wuqian with a dignified face. He patted his shoulder and said in a deep voice, My good disciple. I have no regrets in this life. Master. Lin Wuqian was very grateful to Gu Qingyu. He was his true guide. He wasn't his biological father. We don't have so much nonsense. During this time, thanks to you, we reached the lower realm. Gu Qingyu said straightforwardly. Li Feng and Mu Zhuang stood up and laughed. As martial uncles, we actually broke through with the help of our eldest nephew. We're ashamed. Ha ha ha, Yi Qinghan said with a gratified expression, we're a family, there's no need to be so polite. No matter where we go, we have to remember that we're from the chaotic small world. We fought side by side to get here. That's enough. Everyone nodded. Their relationship couldn't be destroyed by interests. They were really as close as brothers and sons. Let's go. There may be enemies waiting for us in the 9th Immortal Cloud Cave. Let's clean them up and then celebrate. Yi Qinghan roared and rode the purple gold tiger king to the front. The divine bird was furious and cursed, You're a man who values love more than friends. I'm so angry. Ha ha ha, Jian Qinxue, who wasn't good at laughing, laughed. The divine bird was miserable when it saw Emperor Yi. It was bullied every time. The key was that Yi Qinghan didn't help it. First madam, are you going to take care of your sister? I don't want to live anymore. Damn it, no one is helping me. The divine bird ran to Jian Qinxue and said pitifully. She just returned to her position. You have to bear with it. Jian Qinxue said with a smile. The divine bird was speechless. Boom. Boom. The group of people talked and laughed as they went straight to the 9th Immortal Cloud Cave. Bathed in the light, the solemn and dignified statues were even more majestic and spectacular. Chapter 1833. Yi Qinghan hugged Emperor Yi as they sat on the back of the Tiger King. They were glued to each other like glue. This was a reunion after a long separation. Despite the distance between life and death, their reunion was actually so heartwarming. Emperor Ye's face was full of joy and happiness. He couldn't wait to be in Yi Qinghan's arms. Bai Xiaoxing's reincarnation, the golden-bodied martial saint, had an unhappy expression on her face. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi didn't explain anything either, leaving her completely confused. Tell me, how did you two meet? My sister and I are together every day. How come I don't know you are my husband? Wu Sheng-er begged Yi Qinghan in a pitiful manner. Wu Sheng-er hadn't recovered her memories yet, so Yi Qinghan didn't dare to do anything out of line. However, he still replied with a doting expression, Sheng, you will understand in the future. Even if I explain now, you won't understand. But you still have to explain. I feel like you are lying to my sister. If you don't explain, I will go back and tell my father that you kidnapped the saintess. I will beat you until your legs can't touch the ground. Wu Sheng said angrily. Ha ha ha. Emperor Yi covered his mouth and laughed secretly. He laughed so hard that he was trembling. The sky changed color, and a bright moon appeared in the sky, releasing an even brighter radiance. Elder sister, we are both reincarnated golden bodies. I have recovered my memories from my previous life, but you have not. Once you recover, you will understand. You will definitely not allow father to hit him. Emperor Yi snickered. Is that so? I was wondering why I was getting more and more familiar with him. This guy is not a good person. He must have killed me in my previous life. Look at his sinister smile, he must be up to no good. Sister, you have to be careful. Wu Sheng stared at Yi Qinghan's smiling face and said seriously. Pfft. Everyone laughed. Yi Qinghan was speechless. The woman who loved him the most back then was so guarded against him in this life. Ha ha ha, Miss Xiaosheng, you're right. I know this guy the best. He really isn't a good person. Gu Qingyu laughed loudly. It was the first time he laughed so loudly. Everyone was curious. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He ignored the mockery and increased his speed. Even though the 9 Immortals' cloud cave was right in front of them, they still had to run for most of the night to reach it. The statue was even more majestic. Auspicious clouds surrounded this place, as if an immortal was standing in the sky. Countless gloomy lights flickered about, but the 9 large holes at the center shone with radiance. These should be life holes that could be pierced through, allowing one to reach the center after passing through. It didn't seem like much, but experts had special senses, especially the ability to sense danger. They were especially sensitive. Come out. The lower realm experts of the 4 major sects have joined forces. Do you still want to launch a sneak attack? Zhou Yi said indifferently. Boom. His voice reverberated throughout the canyon for a long time. Whoosh. Zhang Xiaoshen, He Shuihen, and the other experts walked out of the cave and stared at Yi Qinghan with gloomy faces. They didn't care that the insane sect already had 4 lower realm experts. Yi Qinghan killed Zhang Xiaoshen's mount. Qi Shuihen's mount's wings were pierced, and now it couldn't fly. These two hated Yi Qinghan the most, and their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Yi Qinghan shrugged indifferently. He hugged Emperor Yi, and behind him stood Wu Sheng. The 2 saintesses were as beautiful as fairies, and their temperament was extraordinary. It was enviable. Yi Qinghan, how dare you? You dare to provoke me? You must be tired of living. Qi Shuihen said coldly. Hand over the gold-devouring toad and jump off the cliff. Then I'll spare your insane sect. Zhang Xiaoshen was even more domineering. He drew his sword and walked over. Long Lu of Longhu Mountain and practitioner Shi Shui of the Demon Dragon sect looked at Yi Qinghan with murderous intent. Yi Qinghan sneered. He didn't even try to defend himself. Instead, he said domineeringly, for great sect masters, will you surrender or choose death? Ha 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 ha, Zhang Xiaoshen took the lead and laughed. He looked at the people of the insane sect with disdain. However, when he glanced at Lin Wutian, Gu Qingyu, and the others, he was stunned. He didn't expect the insane sect to have 4 lower realm experts in such a short time. Moreover, each of them gave him a sense of crisis. Boom! Gu Qingyu, Lin Wutian, Li Feng, and Mu Zhuang stepped forward. The giant mantis and the lion king crushed the mountain and looked down at them. If you win against the 4 of them, I'll let you leave. If you lose, you can either surrender and help me mine 1,000-year-old mine, or die. There's no third choice. You can't escape. Yi Qinghan sat on the purple gold tiger king's back and said domineeringly. His voice was deep and low, with the aura of an emperor. It made people unable to look at him directly. The four of them were experts of the lower realm. At this moment, the corners of their mouths were twitching. They couldn't stand Yi Qinghan's contempt. "I'll go first. I don't believe that a newly advanced lower realm expert can compete with me." Practitioner Shi Shui smiled coldly. Among the four of them, he was the most terrifying. He had killed countless people and emitted a cold aura. Yi Qinghan looked at Lin Wuqian indifferently and said, "Let's go and ask the senior for advice. Give him a chance to surrender. I need people to mine." Lin Wuqian nodded. His domineering aura soared. His confidence made people despair. Practitioner Shi Shui sneered. Many middle realm experts didn't dare to provoke him. A lower realm expert dared to talk to him like this. He was courting death. Whoosh! A scroll appeared in Practitioner Shi Shui's hand. When he pulled it, it gave people a feeling that it could swallow mountains and rivers. Hum. The rhythm of heaven and earth sounded. Lin Wuqian turned into a green lotus and stepped on the sword song. The scroll of heaven and earth pierced through the sky with a thunderous force. Whoosh! Boom boom boom. In an instant, the color of heaven and earth changed. Dark clouds covered the sky and the auspicious clouds disappeared. It was as if the immortals were hiding. Practitioner Shi Shui's vision blurred. Before he could display the power of the scroll in his hand, he felt a chill on his neck. A divine sword was already on his neck. Just as Yi Qinghan said, he was given a chance to surrender. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have the chance to speak. Gap. This was the gap between an absolute saint and an ordinary king. Surrender or die. Yi Qinghan looked down at Practitioner Shi Shui silently. His voice was like the sound of a bell from the end of time, striking people's hearts. Practitioner Shi Shui's hand trembled. The scroll in his hand fell to the ground like an ordinary object. The difference was too great. If Lin Wuqian didn't give him a chance to resist, he wouldn't have the chance to attack. Gulp. Practitioner Shi Shui felt the cold blade on his neck. He didn't dare to move. He said hoarsely, "I surrender. Mr. Yi, please spare my life." Wuqian, seal his soul. As long as he stays obedient for 1,000 years and leaves the secret territory, he can leave. Yi Qinghan said calmly. Hum. The sword in Lin Wuqian's hand whistled. A wisp of invisible sword chi entered Practitioner Shi Shui's mind. If he dared to act recklessly, Lin Wuqian could destroy his soul with a thought. He would never have the chance to reincarnate. Swords have no eyes. Do the three of you want to test it out? However, I can't guarantee that the others will be able to use their swords freely and give you a chance to surrender, Yi Qinghan said calmly. The three lower realms broke out in cold sweat, especially Zhang Shaoshan. He was confident that he could compete with the strongest of the younger generation in the various holy lands. However, when he saw Lin Wuqian, he despaired. Lin Wuqian was comparable to a saint. He was just a second-rate fighter. Chapter 1834. Zhang Shaoshan didn't want to give up. If he didn't even dare to fight now, how would he have the face to climb to the top? How would he have the face to fight for the throne? Ka ka ka. Zhang Shaoshan gripped the divine sword, his large hand gripping the hilt as he grunted, "Please enlighten me." In terms of cultivation, Zhang Shaoshan wasn't the weakest among the four, but he was the youngest. His combat power and talent weren't bad, and he would be a first-class expert in any sect. However, he was facing a one-in-a-million monster like Lin Wuqian. His Tao heart was almost pierced by this sword. "Let me." Gu Qingyu stepped forward, holding the divine sword in his hand. His aura was sharp and murderous, suppressing the enemy's will. Zhang Shaoshan felt the majestic pressure. He held the divine sword tightly and slowly pulled it out. The sword light was dazzling. Gu Qingyu pulled out the sword, and the sword whistled through the sky. His cold sword Dao merged with the green lotus sword song, creating a different kind of power. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Swoosh. The sword light tore through the sky, and the opponent couldn't open his eyes. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Zhang Xiaoshen's sword swept through the sky, trying to force Gu Qingyu back to protect himself. However, he underestimated Gu Qingyu. He attacked Zhang Xiaoshen's sword with an even more powerful attack, suppressing his opponent with an absolute advantage. Boom! Zhang Xiaoshen was forced to retreat. His sword art wasn't weak, but in front of the green lotus sword song, he didn't even deserve to carry his shoes. The eternal art was the eternal art. Apart from the eternal divine art of the same level, no one in the same realm could resist it. Every time Zhang Xiaoshen attacked, he was intercepted and couldn't exert any power. The two fought fiercely, but Gu Qingyu didn't want to kill him. He only wanted to suppress him. After all, the insane sect needed him to mine. The two fought for 2 incense sticks worth of time. Zhang Xiaoshen gave up resisting in despair. There was no chance for him to escape. If they continued fighting, he couldn't guarantee that Gu Qingyu would have the energy to use it freely. I lost. Do you really only want me to mine for 1,000 years? Zhang Xiaoshen smiled bitterly. If he was enslaved for a lifetime, he would rather die. The dignity of an expert wouldn't let him become someone's slave. 1,000 years later, if you want to follow the Guangzhong, I'll have to think twice, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Long Lu wasn't interested in fighting anymore. Gu Qingyu and Lin Wutian alone could crush him. As for Li Feng and Mu Zhuang's cultivation level, he wasn't interested in testing them. If he was killed, then he would suffer a great loss. 1,000 years was just a chance to gain experience. If he lost it, then so be it. His life was the most important thing. Therefore, he was the most straightforward and directly surrendered. Qi Shuihen was indignant as he shouted, Yi Qinghan, fight me if you have the guts. Qi Shuihen did not want to lose to the rest of the Kuang sect. After all, Yi Qinghan was the sect master of the Kuang sect. If he were to lose, he would not have the face to talk about it in the future. If he were to lose to the rest of the Kuang sect or the younger generation of the Kuang sect, he would lose all face. Yi Qinghan let out a muffled groan. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he stared coldly at Qi Shuihen. Say that again. Qi Shuihen's heart suddenly stopped. He was frightened by Yi Qinghan's stare. He didn't know what Yi Qinghan wanted to do, so he didn't dare to say another word. I'm giving you a chance to live. Don't refuse it. You want to win against me? Beat my disciple first. Yi Qinghan warned. Don't try to challenge my bottom line. I cultivate killing techniques. If you want to die, I can fulfill your wish. Qi Shuihen didn't dare to say anything after being reprimanded. He could only choose to surrender. The 4 masters had ambushed the Kuang sect, but they were subdued instead. The thousands of small sects behind the Kuang sect were stunned. They quickly distanced themselves from the Kuang sect. Although there were only 20 of them, each of them had a fighting strength that made people despair. Gather all the disciples of your powerful sections. The more the merrier. Mine for me, and I'll pay you. 1,000th of the ores you excavate will be your own salary. Don't even think about keeping it for yourself. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer. Yi Qinghan ordered. The 4 masters had been subdued and didn't dare to refute. They all went to the back to gather their disciples. Come, the Kuang sect is recruiting miners. We'll take 5 days off and 2 days off. The rest of the time can be used to search for divine herbs. We'll provide you with protection. At least you can keep your lives. Don't take any chances. If you want to gain something and there's no danger, come and mine. The people of the Kuang sect spread out and tried to persuade the small sections. The small sects were weak, but they had a lot of people. Mining was still possible. Many weak sects were tempted. After all, the mystery land was a mystery land. It was too dangerous. With so many masters from the Kuang sect protecting them, their safety was definitely not a problem. We have the gold-devouring toad here. I guarantee that you can excavate countless ores in 1,000 years. As for the divine herbs you find during the rest of the time, we don't want them. You'll definitely get more benefits than searching alone. It's also safe. If you want to sign up, come to me. Once we have enough people, you won't have the chance to sign up. Huang Peng shouted. There's also this divine bird. I'm a treasure hunter. As long as you recognize me as your boss, there will be plenty of divine herbs above the 15th grade. The divine bird was also excited and encouraged the small sects around. More and more small sects gathered. Some lower realm masters thought for a moment and decided to follow the Kuang sect. Otherwise, if they died, their sects would inevitably collapse. After a while, hundreds of lower realm masters from small sects ran to Huangpeng to sign up. The other people from the strong sects helped to record, including Jian Qinxue. The 9 Immortals Cloud Cave was the only way to enter the hinterland. More and more people gathered. However, there were only a few people from the strong sections. After all, the strong sects were in front. Most of them had already entered the hinterland. Some small sects who did not know the situation saw that the strong sects were following Yi Qinghan to excavate ores and signed up. After a few days, there were more than 20,000 people in the 9 Immortals Cloud Cave. Yi Qinghan looked around and felt that it was about time. He took the 20,000 people with him. After passing through the 9 Immortals Cloud Cave, the hinterland was filled with spiritual qi. The gold-devouring toad became active and kept sending soul waves to Yi Qinghan. Many upper-grade ores were hidden deep in the mountains. Normally, they would not be discovered. However, the gold-devouring toad had a special sense. We only want ores above the 15th grade. It's best if it's 16th grade. 1,000 years is too short. We'll take as much as we can. Yi Qinghan said excitedly. The gold-devouring toad took Yi Qinghan to a barren mountain. From the outside, there was nothing special about it. There weren't even many spirit grasses, so it wouldn't attract the attention of others. The gold-devouring toad was sure that there were ores here. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and mobilized the masters of the Red Water sect to excavate the ores. However, he asked the hundreds of disciples from the Tai Lai sect to supervise each other. This could prevent people from hiding the ores. Boom! 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 Thousands of masters excavated the ores at the same time. The mountain above was razed to the ground in an instant, revealing some purple gold ores that were emitting spiritual qi. They were definitely iron ores above the 15th grade. They were the best materials to forge pseudo-sacred artifacts. Chapter 1835. After the first vein was excavated, Yi Qinghan quickly led the gold-devouring toad to look for other veins. They basically circled around one point and did not disperse. The main reason was that they were afraid that other strong sects would come and rob them. There were 10 veins, and on average, each vein was surrounded by more than 2,000 people. The mining speed was not fast. After all, veins of 5th grade and above were very difficult to mine. Without good equipment, one could only sigh. The advantage was that there were more people. Yi Qinghan personally led the mining. Countless resources were excavated. Some were whole, and Yi Qinghan was responsible for dividing and cutting them. The people of the insane sect were responsible for recording. Although the small sects were working hard, they were smiling happily. This was real faith money. They could get hundreds of faith money just by digging out a piece of material. Was there any faster way to make money? Ha ha ha. We're rich. There's a big piece of 5th grade refined gold. It's the material used to make faith money. It's rare outside and priceless. There's at least 3,000 pounds here. A small sect's lower realm expert suddenly laughed. Whoosh! The appearance of mineral resources could stir up the atmosphere of the crowd. The insane sect was responsible for collecting the goods. Everyone's face was full of smiles. The insane sect's road to becoming a strong sect was getting wider and closer. The divine bird was lazy to mine. It thought that this was a lowly job. It wandered around with the star-twining vine in search of precious materials. The sect's experts who were on their day off were also scattered around to search for resources. This was an extra income. The 4 lower realm experts of the insane sect were responsible for guarding. They wandered around, and once experts approached, they would draw their swords and warn them. They were even more powerful than the strong sections. After everything was on the right track, Yi Qinghan lived a comfortable life as a contractor. He smiled as he watched the crowd mining. Occasionally, he would help to break down materials that could not be divided. Emperor Yi and Bai Xiaoxing's reincarnations wandered around. They did not know how to mine. They came here to play. They were overjoyed when they saw the resources coming in one by one. The divine bird had already wandered to the periphery with the rainbow snake and the star-twining vine. They had brought hundreds of storage rings with them, and at this moment, several of them were already filled. With the divine bird leading the way, it would be difficult for them to not reap a bountiful harvest. On a cliff, the star-twining vine was entrenched at the top of the cliff. Its vines had already extended out a few thousand meters and were constantly twining around the Saint Herbs at the bottom of the cliff. The multicolored snake was also swallowing the poisonous substances along the vines. These 3 fellows were very powerful. They swallowed countless Saint Herbs and grew very quickly. They had already reached the 9th level of the Sector Lord Realm. The divine bird had also reached the 8th level of the Sector Lord Realm. Ha ha ha, this mystic realm is too awesome. One day, I'm going to take it for my own use. The divine bird laughed arrogantly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The vines danced and cooperated with the god bird, devouring creatures with strong spirituality and spirit herbs. The vines were tough and powerful. Each vine could erupt with strength comparable to a Sector Lord level 7 or 8. When countless vines surrounded a Sector Lord level 9, it was basically instant death. The 3 divine beasts approached an active volcano. Although the temperature was scorching, it was filled with spirituality. The rainbow snake was of the cold attribute and didn't want to get close to the active volcano. However, it couldn't stand the divine bird's presence. The volcano was filled with fire elements. The divine bird was very happy. Its eyes flickered as it looked around. It felt that there was a fire attribute treasure nearby, but it didn't dare to get too close because it knew that there was definitely a fire attribute beast here. Cough cough, there must be treasures here. Rainbow snake, why don't you go in and take a look? The divine bird suggested. The rainbow snake rolled its eyes at the divine bird. Wasn't it an idiot to let a cold attribute snake go into the volcano? Star-twining vine, you go. Pa! The star-twining vine swung its vines fiercely to express its dissatisfaction. It was a plant-type creature. How could it enter the volcano? The divine bird flapped its wings helplessly and tried to fly into the volcano. Suddenly, the surrounding temperature rose sharply. Li! Flames filled the sky and transformed into a fire dragon. It opened its mouth and charged towards the divine bird. The divine bird was shocked. It flapped its wings and turned to escape. However, the rainbow snake and the star-twining vine were already hundreds of meters away. They couldn't care less about the divine bird. You 2 ungrateful bastards! How dare you abandon your boss? The divine bird screamed angrily. We learned it from you. The star-twining vine and the rainbow snake said in unison. They mobilized their soul waves and swung backwards. Boom! The fire dragon rushed out of the volcano. Magma soared into the sky. The fire burned the surrounding rocks. There were no longer any plants or creatures around. All that was left were bare magma rocks. The divine bird was so frightened that it cried out loudly. It rushed towards the periphery and finally caught up with the star-twining vine. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The star-twining vine flung a vine several thousand meters away and wrapped around another mountain peak. It swung towards the opposite shore like a swing of 1,000 autumns. The multicolored snake locked onto a vine, and the three divine beasts panicked and didn't know where to go. Go back and help. The little golden crow is a fire attribute divine beast. It can definitely help, the divine bird shouted. The fire dragon behind them didn't leave the volcano. It went back after shaking off the divine bird. 2 hours later, Yi Qinghan saw the divine bird, the star-twining vine, and the rainbow snake running back. He looked at them curiously. What are you guys doing? Yi Qinghan asked. We found a treasure, but it was beaten back by the fire attribute creature in the volcano. Damn, that thing is too strong. We aren't its match. These two ran away faster than me. They can't be trusted. I'm here to ask little golden crow for help, the divine bird cursed. Yi Qinghan sneered. He waved his hand and sent the little golden crow out. With the addition of the fire divine beast little golden crow, the 4 divine beasts majestically charged towards the volcano. But in less than 4 hours, the 4 divine beasts were in a worse state. Many of the star-twining vines had been burned in half. It was very miserable. The rainbow snake was covered in wounds. The divine bird's snow-white feathers had turned black. The little golden crow was even more miserable. Its feathers were scattered, and its face was bruised. Boss, take revenge for us. Your loyal 4 divine beasts were beaten up by a fire snake. Look at how pitiful we are. If we lose face, won't you lose face too? The divine bird rushed over and cried out, as if it had been greatly wronged. Rustle rustle rustle. The star-twining vine and the rainbow snake were also dispirited. They were still in a state of shock as they coiled around Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan finally sat up straight. He saw that the 4 divine beasts were beaten up so miserably even when they worked together. What level was the fire snake that beat them? The fire snake beat you up? Yi Qinghan asked, puzzled. It seems so. It was more than 200 feet long. The aftermath of that flame beat me up so miserably. The little golden crow is a fire attribute divine beast, but when it encountered that thing, it didn't even have a chance to fight back. The divine bird said angrily. Yi Qinghan frowned. The little golden crow's strength wasn't bad. It was also a fire attribute divine beast. With the divine bird, the rainbow snake, and the star-twining vine, even if it was suppressed by the fire attribute ferocious beast, it shouldn't have lost so miserably. Let's go. I'll accompany you to take a look. Yi Qinghan summoned the purple gold tiger king and sat on it. He led the 4 divine beasts into the distance. Chapter 1836. Roar. The purple gold tiger king led Yi Qinghan into the distance. Lin Wuxian and the others looked curiously at Yi Qinghan's back as he left. However, Yi Qinghan did not take the initiative to greet them, so they did not follow. After all, mining was the most important thing right now. Boom boom boom. Bang bang bang. Yi Qinghan was led by the purple gold tiger king very quickly. After 2 hours, they were thousands of miles away. They could already see the flames at the top of the volcano. The tiger king ran as if it was flying. It leaped hundreds of meters and went straight to the top of the volcano. When they were halfway up the mountain, the purple-gold Tiger King seemed to be afraid of the fire-type monsters. It growled and stopped approaching. Yi Qinghan patted the Tiger King's head and said lightly, "You guys wait for me down here. Little Golden Crow, accompany me up." After that, he led Little Golden Crow to the top of the mountain. The temperature was rising. Yi Qinghan was very sensitive to the fire origin. As soon as he stepped in, he knew that there was a high-grade fire origin here. It was at least 15 grade or even 16 grade. "You guys found it by accident." Yi Qinghan smiled as he stepped on the top of the mountain. With a flip of his hand, the Rui bell appeared in his hand. Buzz, Yi Qinghan gently shook the Rui bell. The bell roared, worrying about the volcano. Roar! A deep roar shook the volcano, and their ears kept ringing. It was as if there were tens of thousands of insects crawling on their faces. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank and his scalp went numb. He knew that the fire-type monster hiding in the volcano was definitely a low-level fire-type monster. It had the bloodline of the divine dragon and was a mutated species. It would not be easy to deal with. Buzz buzz buzz. Yi Qinghan kept shaking the Rui bell. The bell's sound contained the profound mysteries of the laws and the essence of Buddhism. It kept blasting at the volcano's entrance. Roar roar roar. The low-level fire-type monster could feel the threat. It kept roaring, trying to scare Yi Qinghan away. It did not attack. Flames sprayed out, but the moment they came into contact with Yi Qinghan's clothes, they dissipated into nothingness. Blue demonic flames filled the surroundings, intimidating the ordinary divine flames. The little golden crow swallowed the flames, and its black feathers shone brightly. Boom boom boom. Buzzed. Yi Qinghan's Rui bell had already expanded infinitely. He was waiting for his opponent to rush out so that he could take it down in one fell swoop. This was the only way to suppress his opponent. Otherwise, he would not be able to defeat it. The divine bird sneaked over from behind. With a wretched face, it ran to the opening of the cave and cursed at the volcano. "You son of a bitch, weren't you very powerful just now? Why have you become a coward now? Bah! Even if you came to wipe the feathers of this divine bird, I would still despise you for being ugly. I asked you to submit to this divine bird, yet you're still so arrogant and despotic. See how I'll deal with you today." Roar! The divine bird's curses were effective. The ferocious beast inside became restless and angry. Boom boom boom. The volcano trembled and spewed out large amounts of magma. The fiery red magma flowed in all directions, benefiting the little golden crow. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was ready to subdue the ferocious beast, the divine bird immediately cursed, "Coward, you can hide today. Little bastard, if you dare to come out, I'll slap you to death." Roared. A ray of fire soared into the sky. The temperature was so hot that it was as if the sun was approaching, melting the mountain rocks. "Now's the time." Boom! A divine Buddha appeared behind Yi Qinghan. It held the Rui bell and suppressed the ferocious beast that rushed out. Boom boom boom. The Rui bell quickly shrank. In Yi Qinghan's hand, it rumbled and vibrated. The sound of the bell was mighty and endless. Ha ha ha. Done. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. After putting away the Rui bell, he quickly rushed into the volcano without even looking at what ferocious beast it was. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan jumped into the volcanic cave. His flaming divine robe fluttered in the wind. The lava around him was burning red and boiling. The ores inside had not melted even after countless years of burning. They were definitely great treasures. However, Yi Qinghan did not look for those ores. Instead, he stared at the magma at the bottom. There was a wisp of flame in the center of the volcano that was captivating. It was like a beautiful flame flower in the shape of a true dragon. Ha ha, good luck. A 16th grade dragon fire pith. This volcano seems to have existed for many years. Yi Qinghan did not use his divine power to touch the true dragon fire flower. Instead, he wrapped it in blue demon fire. The blue demon fire was almost burned away by the fire pith. Yi Qinghan did not hesitate and directly swallowed the true dragon fire pith. The moment the flame entered his body, it almost burned Yi Qinghan's body into powder. His screams echoed through the mountains and rivers. Hoo hoo hoo. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with true dragon fire. He formed seals with his palms and stimulated the mysteries of fire, slowly absorbing the true dragon fire pith for his own use. His body was already burning red. Whing. The Rui bell constantly vibrated, protecting his organs and ensuring that his body was not destroyed. His flesh and blood melted, but it rapidly recovered. Gudu, Yi Qinghan's dragon blood began to boil. Perhaps it was the dragon blood in his body that caused the true dragon fire pith to show signs of submission. A fire dragon circled around Yi Qinghan, burning more and more fiercely. His black hair turned crimson. The little golden crow did not dare to touch the 16th grade flames. It could only swallow the 15th grade flame essence, rapidly improving. The divine bird was showing off above, not even daring to enter the volcano. Yi Qinghan's flames passed through his body, emitting a domineering aura that seemed capable of burning the heavens. His entire body was bathed in flames. The dragon blood and true dragon flames fused together. The fire pith had thoroughly fused into Yi Qinghan's blood. His fire attribute physique became increasingly strong, and after his body was reconstructed, it became even more formidable. Even a 15th grade pseudo-saint artifact might not be able to tear through his most basic defenses. Hua! Yi Qinghan stood up. With a wave of his hand, he could control the temperature of the volcano. Because the flames at the bottom of the volcano were no longer suppressed by the true dragon fire pith, they actually showed signs of breaking through. Hua! Yi Qinghan crazily swallowed the essence of the volcano, swallowing up all of the high temperatures and turning them into his own energy. The entire volcano contained endless strength, but at this time, Yi Qinghan had forcefully swallowed over half of it. After the volcano stabilized, Yi Qinghan no longer swallowed it. He stood up and rushed towards the mouth of the volcano. With a wave of his hand, he activated the wishful bell. He discovered that the vicious creature being suppressed was a fire attribute dragon mastiff. It was a variant creature with a red body and a heart that beat powerfully. It contained endless fire essence. This creature could not leave the volcano, so it could not be taken away. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He directly sealed it in the wishful bell and then released it. He broke open the fire attribute dragon mastiff's body and swallowed its heart, turning it into essence and fusing it into his body. Yi Qinghan's combat strength instantly increased by more than 10 times. The divine bird drooled as it ran in front of Yi Qinghan. It flattered, "Boss, where are the treasures inside? Share them with me. For better or worse, I found them." Yi Qinghan's eyes were like scorching suns, capable of burning all things. He calmly looked at the divine bird, causing it to tremble in fear. It discovered that Yi Qinghan's aura had reached an outrageous level. Even if Lin Wuqian erupted with all of his strength, he might not be able to match him. Chapter 1837. The divine bird was frightened by the flames in Yi Qinghan's eyes. It quickly said flatteringly, "Boss, if you don't want it, I don't want it. Please don't be angry." "Oh, that's the 16th grade real dragon fire marrow. If you want it, I'll give you half of it," Yi Qinghan said calmly. The divine bird heard this and trembled. It quickly shook its head and replied flatteringly, "Boss, please don't tease me. I don't have the fortune to enjoy 16th grade real dragon fire marrow." "Then go back," Yi Qinghan replied faintly. After that, Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took the little golden crow out of the cave. He turned around and stepped 100 meters away. The surrounding temperature dropped instead of rising. Who said that the Great Path was invisible? When the real Great Path appeared, the sky fell and the earth cracked. It was visible to the naked eye. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped on the back of the purple-gold Tiger King. The purple-gold Tiger King felt the terrifying pressure and knelt down with a bang. Go back. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. It was filled with a destructive will. The purple-gold Tiger King did not dare to disobey. Roar! The Tiger King stepped on the rocks and rushed into the distance. It was as fast as lightning and turned into a golden light. At this moment, the crazy sect led the group of people to mine in batches. The 10 mineral veins were all excavated. In total, they dug out hundreds of millions of 15th grade resources. The 16th grade resources were rarer, only a few tons. As for the 14th grade resources, they were all given to the disciples of the other small and strong sections. As the saying goes, if you eat meat, you should at least share some soup with others. Otherwise, who would be willing to work for you? Yi Qinghan was not stingy. There were at least hundreds of millions of tons of 14th grade resources. Even if they were to be divided equally among the 20,000 people, it would not be a small amount. After Yi Qinghan returned, he took all the resources and led hundreds of people from the small sects and the 4 strong sects into the distance. Not every place had mineral veins. After excavating that place, Yi Qinghan and the others had not found a good mineral vein after traveling for tens of thousands of miles. They could only continue to go deeper. The deeper they went, the more terrifying the beasts were. Lower-grade beasts could be seen everywhere. If a middle-grade beast became angry, the 20,000 people would not be able to survive. At this time, the people they encountered were all from powerful sections. Occasionally, they would encounter experts from the Holy Lands. However, everyone was still able to restrain themselves. For the time being, they would search for resources on their own. In the end, they would fight each other and plunder each other, the sun. The happiest one was the divine bird. In its opinion, Guangzhong's celestial pet was going to be its little brother. The team is getting bigger and bigger. Ha ha ha, it's getting harder for me to be the boss, the divine bird said smugly. Roar! The purple-gold Tiger King snorted disdainfully and ignored him. The divine bird immediately quieted down. It was still fine for it to deceive other divine beasts, but if it wanted to deceive these unruly and difficult-to-find lower-plane cultivators, it didn't have the ability to do so. Tiger King, if you're smart, I can let you be number 2. Otherwise, humph. The divine bird threatened softly. Roar! The purple-gold Tiger King coldly snorted and growled. It was very disdainful of the divine bird. This divine bird is an expert at finding treasures and is deeply doted on by my master. Are you blind? Look at the little fellows around me, they're all tamed by me. They've never lacked treasures by following me. If you take the initiative to submit to me, you'll have a lot of benefits in the future. Otherwise, you'll be the boss in the future, and you won't get any benefits. The divine bird threatened in a low voice. Unfortunately, the purple-gold Tiger King was very arrogant and didn't care about the divine bird at all. The divine bird turned its head to look at Yi Qinghan, feeling wronged. It could only ask him for help now. Yi Qinghan shrugged. The divine bird liked to be the boss, and this was already a well-known fact. Other things couldn't satisfy it, but this small matter could still satisfy it. Tiger King, in the future, as long as I'm not around, you have to listen to the divine bird. It won't mistreat you, Yi Qinghan ordered calmly. The Tiger King had no choice but to submit to the divine bird. When the divine bird saw this, it immediately grinned and was incomparably arrogant. At this moment, the gold-devouring toad suddenly issued an urgent warning. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and released the gold-devouring toad. The gold-devouring toad sped towards the southeast. The target is the southeast. Yi Qinghan changed direction and grabbed the gold-devouring toad in his hand. He rode the purple gold tiger king and rushed towards the southeast. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 20,000 people, each led by a lower plane expert, followed Yi Qinghan as they rushed towards the southeast. This battle formation alarmed many experts, including the powerful kings of soldiers and kings of sects. They didn't know what was going on, but they all followed to see what was going on. In a vast lake, there was an independent island. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, and the spiritual energy was overwhelming. Looking at the wasteland for hundreds of miles, this place was the most lush and luxuriant place. Moreover, they were all rare divine herbs. Because it was located in a remote area, very few people discovered it. Even if they did, they couldn't go to the other side to harvest it. However, Yi Qinghan had his eyes on that independent island. He estimated that the entire island was made up of 16 grade minerals. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and looked at the island thousands of feet away. There were some cliffs around it, and it was the same everywhere. No flying was allowed. Even if a ship was built, it wouldn't be able to enter the lake, let alone allow people to enter the island to mine. The treasure was right in front of them, but they couldn't mine it. The lower plane experts all came to give advice. After mining this vein, the 4 major sects would be able to get at least 10 tons of 15-grade materials. The rest of the smaller sects would also be able to get 1 to 2 tons of 15-grade materials. It was priceless. Sect leader Yi, do you think we can build a wooden bridge to enter the lake? A lower plane expert looked at the 3,000 feet wide cliff. It wasn't too wide, and there was a chance to enter the lake. He suggested excitedly. Yi Qinghan furrowed his brows and calculated. The start-winding vine could reach the other side, and it wouldn't be a problem to build a metal chain bridge. Yes, let's do it. We'll build a bridge to enter the lake. Yi Qinghan said seriously. Whoosh! 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 The start-winding vine took root beside Yi Qinghan. Countless vines wrapped around the other side like metal chains. Hundreds of people carried the metal chains to the other side of the lake and tied them up one after another. They didn't dare to be careless. Fellow Taoist Zhang, you'll be in charge of building the large ship. Your salary will be calculated separately. How about it? Yi Qinghan asked. Zhang Shaoshan immediately nodded in agreement. They had nothing to do now, and building a ship wasn't troublesome. Moreover, Yi Qinghan was very generous. When the time came, he could throw some substandard materials to him. That would be a huge windfall. Soon, everyone was busy with their own duties. However, some of them approached the camp of the insane sect with evil intentions. Qi Shuihen and the others were all veterans of powerful sections. Naturally, they recognized the other party. They whispered to Yi Qinghan, sect leader Yi, this group of people is a famous villain organization in the great world. Their cultivation is strong and they're extremely ferocious. More than 30 lower plane experts are their people. When they join forces, they're comparable to 100 lower plane experts. Moreover, they're lower plane experts at our level. I'm afraid they're here to rob us. Yi Qinghan looked up at the approaching group of people. There were about 30 lower plane experts and more than 300 sector lords above the 8th level. They were all dressed in black. As for the experts scattered around, they were all individual kings. There was nothing to be afraid of. Chapter 1838. The Quanzong led a large group of strong cultivators to perform their duties. Some were building bridges, some were building ships, and some were defending. The rest were scattered everywhere to search for divine herbs. Yi Qinghan only glanced at the group of lower-level cultivators. From Qi Shuihen, he learned that they were a group of ferocious soldiers that roamed everywhere. They even dared to offend sacred grounds. Their leader was an upper-level cultivator, and there were many middle-level cultivators as well. They collected protection fees when they entered the city. Even the city lords had to pay to prevent disasters, not to mention the tribes and villages. What a resounding name. The heaven-breaking ferocious army. I'm afraid you guys can't break the sky. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He didn't take the initiative to provoke that group of people. The group of experts from the heaven-breaking ferocious army didn't approach. They seemed to be waiting for Yi Qinghan and the others to finish building the bridges and ships so that they could enjoy the fruits of their labor. Should we kill them all? The divine bird's eyes flashed as he suggested wretchedly. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. He asked, why should we kill them? 30 lower-level cultivators and more than 300 people above the 8th level of the sector lord realm. These are good slaves that are hard to come by. They don't even need to be paid. Why not? Boss is wise. Long live master. You will definitely unify the pugilistic world. The divine bird fawned wretchedly. Yi Qinghan snorted and replied indifferently, long live. I definitely don't have the ability to unify the pugilistic world, but I am very wise. That's right, that's right. The divine bird nodded repeatedly and replied flatteringly. The heaven-breaking ferocious army was still coldly looking at the Guangzong's group. They didn't know that Yi Qinghan had already decided their fate. It would be fine if they didn't provoke the Guangzong. Once they did, the consequences would be unimaginable. The leader of the heaven-breaking ferocious army was a peak lower-level cultivator called Yi Luhen. He was already half a step into the middle-level cultivator. He was very powerful, even stronger than Zhou Yi. At this moment, he was staring coldly at Yi Qinghan and the others. Wait for them to build the bridges and ships. Kill the few leaders and rope the rest in to help us mine and harvest sacred herbs, Yi Luhen whispered to the group. They have many people. I'm afraid they will join forces. An expert beside Yi Luhen said. Yi Luhen looked at the group of people with disdain and sneered, so many small sects are only together for some benefits. When it comes to danger, who would dare to show their faces? The ferocious legion was used to seeing the fickleness of crowds. Every time they entered a city, they would not be able to barge in if some of the larger cities joined forces. However, since no one dared to join forces, they could only obediently hand over their offerings. Yi Luhen thought that once he had control over human nature, no one would be able to resist him. However, they had picked the wrong target. They really shouldn't have provoked Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan pulled out a wooden armchair and reclined comfortably on it. He waved his hand and called Lin Wuqian over. He whispered into his ear, Wuqian, inform all the lower plane cultivators to surround the heaven-breaking valiant army. We don't need them to attack. We'll just deal with them. Don't kill them. These people are quite strong. Okay. Lin Wuqian pretended to be calm. He first found Zhang Shaoshan, Qi Shuihen, and the others of the 4 great cultivators and told them what Yi Qinghan had said. The 4 great cultivators subconsciously glanced at the group of people, but they did it very discreetly. Yi Luhen and the others didn't notice anything. Lin Wuqian then quickly notified the various sections. There were more than 100 low-level cultivators. Although they did not agree, they had the advantage of numbers. They could surround the heaven-breaking army. The low-level cultivators were afraid of the Yi Qinghan. They did not want to provoke the Yi Qinghan. But seeing that Yi Qinghan and the other experts did not show any fear, they had no choice but to agree. Although Zhang Shaoshan and the other experts were afraid of this group, they were not so afraid that they did not dare to attack. The 5 experts were secretly preparing, but they did not know that Yi Qinghan's current strength was even more exaggerated than Lin Wuqian's. He could definitely burn the sky with a flip of his hand. Even a low-level cultivator might not be able to withstand the flames in his hand. Not to mention, he also had a high-grade saint tool like the wishful bell. The ship was quickly built. The iron chain bridge was also completed. All the planks were laid. It was 50 feet wide. 10 people could walk side by side without a problem. The star-twining vine was responsible for the safety of both sides of the bridge. Even if the bridge was broken, it could save people in an instant. The spiritual herbs on the island, those above the 16th grade belong to the crazy sect. Those above the 15th grade, you can pick as many as you want. Yi Qinghan threw out the benefits first, making the 4 sects and the hundreds of small sects excited. But before they could rejoice, Yi Luhen came over with the Yi Qinghan disdainfully. He snorted disdainfully. "It's yours. Have you asked for the opinion of the Yi Qinghan?" Clap. Yi Qinghan clapped his hands and stood up from the armchair. He turned to look at the domineering Yi Luhen. His eyes flashed with fire. But Yi Luhen and the others were very domineering. Just based on their aura, if they were not facing the crazy sect, the others would not be able to gather together. The 4 sects would not dare to join forces against them. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and said coldly, "Surround them. Let's see who dares to move. You dare to provoke the fierce sect. Are you tired of living?" Yi Luhen threatened. His cold gaze swept across the crowd, causing them to be unable to breathe. This group of people was used to being domineering. They were used to bullying others. Each of them pulled out their swords and sneered, threatening the other forces. Needless to say, this kind of threat was effective. Many of the lower-level cultivators' aura stagnated. They did not dare to move forward. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground and kicked Yi Luhen in the chest. He waved his hand and slapped Yi Luhen in the face, causing a huge fire to erupt. His aura was monstrous, and the surrounding temperature instantly rose by millions of times. The ground was burned into nothingness, and a burning smell filled the air as a terrifying pressure spread out. It was too fast. So fast that even the lower-level cultivators did not have time to resist. Yi Luhen was almost breathless from this kick. He was sent flying back several hundred meters. His chest was distorted, his face was purple, and his mind was in chaos. The experts of the fierce sect were about to pull out their swords and attack when Yi Qinghan's cold and low voice pierced their eardrums like a demon. "Whoever moves, dies." Whoosh! The 5 experts of the crazy sect pulled out their swords and walked out. Lin Wutian, in particular, had a gaze like a sword that cut into people's eyes. It was as if anyone would die if his sword was unsheathed. Heaven-breaking army. Do you think you can bully the insane sect just because you have more people? Yi Qinghan stepped forward with an imposing aura. Whoosh! With Yi Qinghan taking the lead, the experts of the 4 major sects immediately surrounded them. The lower-level cultivators of the hundreds of small sects gathered their courage and surrounded the 30 lower-level experts. Pfft! Yi Luhen clutched his chest. He almost vomited out his internal organs. Tears flowed down his face. This was not a matter of pain. It was an involuntary problem. This time, it was not the crazy sect or the small sects who were frightened. It was the fierce sect. After robbing for so many years, they had kicked an iron plate. Chapter 1839. When the 100 lower-level experts surrounded the ferocious army finally calmed down. They were sweating profusely. No matter how fierce they were, it was impossible for them to take on 3 people at once. Moreover, these people from the crazy sect were all peak kings. Killing 3 to 5 of them was nothing difficult. Gradually, the swords in their hands were put down. Yi Qinghan stepped through the crowd. The ferocious army subconsciously retreated and split into 2 groups, allowing Yi Qinghan to walk towards Yi Luhen. Seeing Yi Qinghan walking over, Yi Luhen stood up and was about to attack. However, before he could mobilize his divine power, Yi Qinghan grabbed him by the throat and lifted him up. Don't be arrogant in front of me. I'm used to being arrogant. It's fine if you don't provoke me. But if you provoke me, not to mention the ferocious army, even if the holy son of a holy ground came personally, I would still beat him up without hesitation. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as flames surrounded his body. The temperature was so high that it seemed like it was going to melt Yi Luhen. Yi Luhen felt a bone-piercing pain as thousands of ants devoured his body. However, his divine power was suppressed by Yi Qinghan's seal. He couldn't resist at all and could only let the flames burn his body. Can you be a little more obedient now? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Yi Luhen didn't want to endure this kind of pain anymore and nodded repeatedly. Yi Qinghan threw Yi Luhen to the ground and stepped on his neck. As long as he exerted a little more force, a master-level expert would die. Bring your people to mine for me. I might spare you in the end. However, if you make me unhappy, I will turn you into cannon fodder. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Boom! A strand of Yi Qinghan's will, containing a strand of the profundity of fire, entered Yi Luhen's sea of consciousness. It was like a blazing sun. Once it exploded, Yi Luhen's entire body would be reduced to dust. Yi Luhen broke out in cold sweat. He thought that Yi Qinghan's sneak attack had caused his failure. Who would have thought that Yi Qinghan's strength was so exaggerated? The members of the ferocious legion felt their hands and feet turn cold. They didn't dare to move. Qi Shui Hen was shocked. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be even stronger than Lin Wujian. He was only Sector Lord level 9. Now, he was glad that he hadn't fought Yi Qinghan. Otherwise, he would have been reduced to dust by now. However, what he didn't know was that Yi Qinghan had only reached this level because he had swallowed the true dragon fire essence. If not for the wishful bell, any lower realm cultivator would have been able to kill him. Yi Qinghan let go of Yi Luhen and said to the people of the insane sect, place restrictions on all the lower plane members of the ferocious army. Kill anyone who resists. One of the strong cultivators immediately tried to escape. However, before he could reach 100 meters away, Lin Wujian's sword split the sky. The divine sword pierced through his body and his corpse fell to the ground. The remaining people didn't have the guts to run even if they wanted to. There are many who don't believe in heresy. However, I don't want you to be stupid. Being my miners is much better than death. I don't lack people like you. If you want to die, I can fulfill your wish. Yi Qinghan warned coldly. Other than the people of the insane sect, everyone else sucked in a breath of cold air. The way they looked at Yi Qinghan changed. The people of the insane sect quickly placed restrictions on the ferocious legion. As for the sector lord level cultivators, Yi Qinghan didn't care. They wouldn't be able to overturn the situation. He said to the crowd, let the lower realm cultivators mine everything on this island. You can decide on the mines below grade 15. Hand over those above grade 15. Hand over those above grade 15. Don't be greedy. You will die. More than 100 lower realm cultivators quickly crossed the iron chain bridge and drove the ship towards the island. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and stared at the lake. Suddenly, he had a bad feeling. There seemed to be something under the lake, and it was very difficult to deal with. Speed up and enter the island. Yi Qinghan reminded in a low voice. Hua! The ship accelerated again. After half an hour, they were close to the island. There was no danger. Yi Qinghan stepped across the iron chain bridge and looked at the rippling water. He put the colorful snake into the water and whispered, see if there are any large ferocious beasts under the water. If there are, don't disturb them. Whoosh! The colorful snake quickly rushed to the bottom of the water. Don't mind first. We'll talk about it later. Yi Qinghan sent a telepathic message to Zhang Shaoshan and the others. Everyone looked at the lake in confusion. There didn't seem to be any large water monsters. Moreover, there were more than 100 lower realm cultivators. Even if there was a lower realm ferocious beast, it would have to retreat. The colorful snake quickly swam to the bottom of the lake. The lake was very large and deep. It was dark below and entangled with water plants. Many spiritual fish swayed in the water. However, through the layer of water plants, there was light below. It was as if there was another world. The colorful snake carefully approached and found that there were some palaces a few hundred meters below. They had been here for tens of thousands of years. They probably didn't belong to this civilization. The palaces were majestic and magnificent. They covered the entire bottom of the lake and stood there until now. Many of the palaces had collapsed. Perhaps it wasn't because of the passage of time, but because of a strong external force. In the end, they were still here and formed a lake. They were buried under the lake and had not been discovered until now. The bottom of the lake stretched on endlessly, as if there was another universe of sun and moon. For a short period of time, they did not discover any other large creatures. After circling around, other than a few palaces that were not searched, the other places had been searched. The multicolored snake quickly rushed back to the shore of the lake and told Yi Qinghan everything it had seen through its soul. Yi Qinghan was quite surprised. It seemed that this was the world of an eternal being. However, the eternal being was missing or dead. That was why his world was broken to such a degree. You guys come back first. Don't mine without my order. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. There was no other way. The group took the big boat back to the shore. Later on, Yi Qinghan called Gu Qingyu, Qi Shuihen, Yi Luhen, and 5 other decent experts from the Fierce Legion. They were prepared to explore this world under the lake. There were palaces here, which proved that there was indeed a large civilization here. There would definitely be treasures. However, this world was unknown and too dangerous. They didn't dare to let the insane sex people go down. Yi Luhen and the 5 experts became cannon fodder. Qi Shuihen was from the Crimson Water sect and had good swimming skills. Naturally, he had to go. However, since Yi Qinghan had gone down personally, they didn't dare to say anything. Bang! The group of 9 rushed to the bottom of the lake and quickly dived down. They passed through the layer of aquatic plants and a bright light burst out. The palace came into view. The majestic palace still emitted a majestic aura, shocking everyone. No one knew that this secret realm was actually a large world. Moreover, it was a large world where human civilization once existed. Such a large world had actually become like this. Yi Qinghan quickly swam towards the center of the palace. The Rui bell was already in his hand, ready to deal with any danger. Chapter 1840. Danger could appear at any time. Although it looked calm at the moment, Yi Qinghan was very vigilant. This underwater world wasn't as safe as it appeared on the surface. Qi Shuihen and the others silently followed Yi Qinghan. The divine swords in their hands were already unsheathed, emitting a faint pressure. There's danger here. It should be a mid-level vicious creature. Qi Shuihen was a water element expert after all. His perception was even stronger than Yi Qinghan's. He only needed to scan the area and use the water element profound sense to know that there was a powerful vicious creature here. Yi Qinghan stood in front of the underwater palace, frowning as he stared into the depths of the palace. There were many dark places around him, and he didn't know where the danger was. Sect Master Yi, it's not worth the risk. A mid-level vicious creature isn't something we can fight against. Qi Shuihen saw that Yi Qinghan was unwilling to give up and reminded him via voice transmission. Yi Qinghan turned to look at Qi Shuihen and asked via voice transmission, "Can you confirm that it's a mid-level vicious creature?" Qi Shuihen nodded firmly and replied, "Sect Master Yi, I'm a water element martial grandmaster. I'll know what kind of creature is in the water with just a glance. This creature is a mid-level water element expert. In this lake, it can suppress your fire element physique. As long as it's alarmed, it can instantly kill us. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment, then waved his hand, indicating for everyone to retreat. Some risks weren't worth taking. No matter how many resources there were, it was useless if you didn't have the life to enjoy them. Splash! The 9 people stomped on the ground and prepared to return to the surface. Suddenly, the water rippled, and the bottom became turbid. Not good. Quickly go up. Splash! Qi Shuihen used the water element profound sense, coiling up a water dragon, and rushed out with the group. Whoosh! A hurried sound reverberated in the water. Before anyone could react, a torrent of water stimulated their souls. Bang! After a muffled sound, Qi Shuihen's water barrier shattered. Just as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, an iron whip-like whisker with numerous barbs rushed into the body of a low-level ferocious army expert. The shrill screams came to an abrupt end. Yi Qinghan turned around and saw a horrifying scene. A gigantic octopus stretched out hundreds of tentacles, and each tentacle carried a powerful force. The defense of a lower plane cultivator was like paper to it, and it could break through it in an instant. Whoosh! The rapid octopus claws pierced through the lake and headed straight for the remaining 8 people. This time, Qi Shuihen couldn't care less about the others. He immediately turned around and left. As a water elementalist, his speed was very fast, leaving the others behind. Yi Qinghan did not care too much. The wishful bell in his hand vibrated, and the low rumbling of the bell seemed to come from the end of the wilderness. The airwave rushed towards the body of the octopus, and then it swept up the 2 people beside it and rushed towards the lake. Whoosh! Boom! A wave of water rose from the surface of the water as high as 1,000 feet. The people of the Kuang sect were so frightened that they quickly retreated. Back, leave this lake. Don't squeeze. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The expert standing on the periphery quickly rushed towards the plains on the opposite side. Boom boom boom. Whoosh! The waves surged, covering the sky and the sun. The clear lake became turbid. Occasionally, tentacles with powerful suction cups would reach out like spears. As long as they pierced the body of an expert, the suction cups would instantly suck away the life force of the expert. No one could escape. At this moment, the lake was dyed red with blood. Buzz! The sound of the bell and the sound of the sword intertwined. The bottom of the lake was in a mess. The 9 experts had lost 2 of their lower plane cultivators in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Qi Shuihen was the first to escape. He rushed ashore with a look of horror and escaped along the iron chain bridge into the crowd. The people of the Kuang sect were very anxious. Lin Wuxian had already drawn his sword and was about to enter the lake, but he was stopped by Qi Shuihen. Don't go down. You'll die if you go now. There's a middle plane mutated octopus under the water. It can kill a lower plane cultivator in an instant. Qi Shuihen said in a low voice. Whoosh! Boom. Yi Qinghan held the wishful bell in his hand and struck the bottom of the lake with his palm. Following the impact, he rushed to the bottom of the lake and rushed up into the sky. Immediately after, Yi Luhen and the other 4 experts of the ferocious army rushed out. Of the 9 who went down, only 6 came back. In just a moment, 3 lower plane cultivators died. Even their bones were not preserved. They were eaten by the mutated octopus. Boom! Bang! A tentacle reached out of the water and rolled toward Yi Qinghan and the other 4. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He waved his hand and a terrifying 16-grade flame turned into a roaring true dragon. It pressed down on the tentacle. Puff! A blood sword spurted out from the suction cup with a majestic impact. Ordinary water was not burned by the 16-grade true dragon fire marrow. A middle plane cultivator was indeed a middle plane cultivator. There were too many powerful ones. A true immortal could kill all the heroes in the world with a withered leaf. A weak person could not kill a strong person with a divine weapon. Yi Luhen and the others took advantage of the moment when Yi Qinghan resisted and escaped from the lake. They stepped over the iron bridge and hid in the crowd. Their faces were pale and they were still in shock. Yi Qinghan no longer resisted and quickly rushed to the other side. Boom! Yi Qinghan stepped on the iron bridge and flipped a few times before appearing in front of everyone. His clothes were drenched in cold sweat. Drip, 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 thump, thump, thump. A few lower plane cultivators who entered the water were terrified. Their hearts were restless. Let's retreat. If this guy comes out, we'll work together to kill him. If he doesn't come out, we'll give up on the treasure here, Yi Qinghan said seriously. Whoosh! Just as everyone retreated, a terrifying mutated octopus emerged from the lake. Every tentacle was thicker than the star-twisting vine but not as long. However, the destructive power of the star-twisting vine was not something the star-twisting vine could compare to. The huge octopus crawled out of the water and stared coldly at Yi Qinghan and the others. It actually spoke in human language and said coldly, "Damned humans. How dare you disturb this god's cultivation? Since that's the case, this god will devour all of you and let you merge with me." Whoosh! The mutated octopus twisted its body and evolved into a half-human, half-demon monster. It stepped out of the lake with tentacles as its feet. It was more than 30 meters tall. Run! Boom! Shio shio shio. Just as the lower plane cultivators wanted to escape, the hundreds of tentacles had already killed a few hundred sector lords. Their flesh and blood turned into nothingness, leaving behind only dried corpses. Pa! Every tentacle had barbs that could instantly absorb the enemy's flesh and blood. The suction pads were even more terrifying as they could suck the entire person in. Defend! Don't run! Yi Qinghan was shocked. This mutated octopus's speed was much faster than humans. Running now would only give it a chance to kill them one by one. More than half of the sector lords were killed in an instant. Close to 10,000 of them had no chance to resist at all. Yi Qinghan placed the weaker insane sect behind him and held the Rui bell in his hand. He no longer cared about his foundation and went all out. He was about to use the true dragon flame to fight against the mutated octopus's sea of consciousness. Lin Wuxian held his sword with both hands and his sword intent soared to the sky. A green lotus appeared and supported his golden body. The mutated octopus was stunned and murmured, "Green Lotus Sword Song," the Green Lotus Sword Song created by the Great Master. Chapter 1841. The Xenogeneic octopus said the name of the Green Lotus Sword Song, which shocked Yi Qinghan and the others. Aside from Lin Wuxian and Yi Qinghan, most people in the insane sect did not know where it came from. While everyone was trying to think of a way to escape, the Xenogeneic octopus knelt in front of Lin Wuxian. It was as if the person in front of it was a real master. "Little slave beast greets the great young master. I did not know you were coming. I have tarnished your dignity. Please punish me," the Xenogeneic octopus said in fear. Lin Wuxian was confused. He didn't know if he should kill the Xenogeneic with his sword or keep it. He couldn't help but look at Yi Qinghan. The Xenogeneic was at least a mid-level deity, and the insane sect lacked such creatures. How could he kill it? Besides, Lin Wuxian might not be able to kill the Xenogeneic octopus with one strike. Yi Qinghan quickly reminded him, "Form a master-servant contract with it." Lin Wuxian held his sword, and the power of the sword was still there. He asked, "If you call me young master, are you willing to form a master-servant contract with me?" The Xenogeneic octopus was not angry. It said excitedly, "Great young master, this is the honor of a slave beast. As long as you don't mind, I am willing to serve you for the rest of my life. Then form a master-servant contract with me. I need your help now. As long as you don't betray me, I will treat you well, Lin Wuqian said quietly. Everyone looked at each other. They didn't expect this guy to ask to be Lin Wuqian's slave after so many people had died. This was great news. Whoosh! Whoosh! The xenogeneic octopus was overjoyed. It started chanting. The way the contract was formed was different. A golden light covered Lin Wuqian, and it became Lin Wuqian's slave beast. It had given its soul to Lin Wuqian, and Lin Wuqian could use its body to fight. He could take over its body in an instant. This was a real master-servant contract. It was very advanced, but powerful creatures would not allow such a thing to happen unless they truly believed in someone. Whoosh! The xenogeneic octopus turned into a mark, and it appeared on Lin Wuqian's wrist. It was like a tattoo, wrapping around his fingers. Boom! When the alien octopus entered Lin Wuqian's veins, Lin Wuqian's cultivation level soared. His chi soared to the sky, and he reached the middle level in a flash. Boom! Lin Wuqian's chi rushed out of his body, and sent the people around him flying. The gap between them had suddenly widened. Even Yi Qinghan was no match for Lin Wuqian. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He didn't expect the mutant octopus to have such a high level. It was probably higher than the middle level. Wuqian, call it out. I have something to ask it. Yi Qinghan finished speaking and stepped onto the iron chain bridge alone, arriving at the lakeside. Lin Wuqian followed Yi Qinghan while the others stayed where they were. No one dared to pry into the secrets that Yi Qinghan wanted to know. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian released the xenogeneic octopus. The xenogeneic octopus was very respectful. It didn't want to offend Lin Wuqian. I will call you a slave beast from now on. Now, let me ask you, which civilization did the ruins at the bottom of the lake come from? Who is the creator of the Green Lotus sword song you mentioned? Where is he? Yi Qinghan stared at the xenogeneic octopus. The xenogeneic octopus looked at Yi Qinghan and saw that he was unusually respectful. It replied, My lord, this is the Shang dynasty. It was once a great world, created by the great master. He is the great creator. We were all created by him. I was fortunate enough to see the great master in action. Later, because of a great war, the Shang dynasty was destroyed, and the great master went missing. We, the weak slave beasts, went into hiding, and the humans were all killed. Yi Qinghan was shocked. The creator of the great world must have been an eternal being. He must have been one of the strongest eternal beings. The fact that the Green Lotus sword song could kill an eternal being was proof of that. But the great world he was protecting had been destroyed. Who was the one who did it? Who fought against your creator? The sacred lord of the central plains of the eternal world? Who was the one who destroyed the Shang dynasty? Yi Qinghan continued asking. The mutated octopus shook its head and replied in confusion, Back then, we were still very weak. We weren't qualified to watch the battle or help our great master, so we couldn't tell who the other side was. This slave beast only heard from some of the top upper realm ancestors that back then, our master fought against more than 10 eternal sovereigns alone and killed many enemies. However, he was outnumbered and had no choice but to give up on the great Shang world. He scattered a will and told all beings in the great Shang world that whoever comprehended the Green Lotus sword song would be the master of the great Shang world. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched in disbelief. There was no need for those eternal beings to attack another powerful eternal being. Was the great Shang dynasty connected to the eternal world in the past? Yi Qinghan asked, following his own train of thought. This time, the octopus replied with certainty, My lord, our great Shang dynasty was an independent world in the past. It was not connected to the eternal world. Later on, it was forcefully torn apart by a powerful existence. In the end, it intersected with the eternal world and became a pocket dimension of the eternal world. Back then, many of our enslaved beasts died at the hands of the experts of the great world. They either submitted or became slaves. Now, some of the powerful upper-level existences of the great Shang dynasty are hiding like little enslaved beasts. Yi Qinghan suddenly came to a realization. He couldn't help but look at Lin Wuqian. Lin Wuqian was a very intelligent person. This great world had a total of 10 pocket dimensions. It would appear that the other pocket dimensions were the same as the great Shang dynasty's pocket dimension. Only after the creator was destroyed or fled did his own world become a pocket dimension of the eternal world. What will happen to the eternal world if it fuses with other worlds? What will happen to the sacred lord of the Central Plains? Yi Qinghan thought to himself. He was certain that the eternal world was an invader and the other eternal beings of the eternal world were accomplices. Then, those eternal beings would know that the eternal beings were not unkillable. However, when it came to educating and enslaving people, the eternal beings were supreme existences that could not be disobeyed. Are there any treasures at the bottom of the lake? Or are there any inheritances? Yi Qinghan did not ask any more questions. Some things were best left unknown. Otherwise, he would definitely be hunted down by the eternal beings. My lord, the bottom of the lake was the central area of the great Shang dynasty. It was the place where the descendants of the great master passed down his inheritance. This place was destroyed by the Great War back then and sunk into this place. There are many profound law steals here. Because the little enslaved beast comprehended some of the laws, it advanced from a weakling to a peak middle-level existence. It is only half a step away from the upper level, the octopus replied excitedly. Who? Yi Qinghan exhaled a turbid breath. He looked at Lin Wuqian and whispered, Wuqian, don't tell anyone about what happened today. Otherwise, we will all be killed. In the future, don't use the octopus outside unless it is necessary. Yes. Lin Wuqian replied respectfully. Chapter 1842. Yi Qinghan was certain that the Central Earth Holy Nation had allied with so many people to destroy one world after another. As for what that motive was, only the Holy Nation of the Central Earth's Holy Nation knew. However, his ultimate goal was to transcend the Eternal Realm. Humph, the Eternal Realm. They all know that the Eternal Realm is the end, yet they still want to transcend. It's true that the stronger a person is, the more dissatisfied they are. Yi Qinghan groaned and jumped into the lake with Lin Wuqian. Under the lead of the octopus, they rushed into the lake. At the bottom of the lake, it was just as the xenogenic octopus had said. There were many steels, and the words were strange and difficult to understand. The broken steels were scattered all over the place. Many of the steels had been broken, and they were all incomplete. It would be difficult to fix them. Yi Qinghan and Lin Wuqian quickly collected the broken steels. Naturally, they wouldn't let go of the complete steels. The two of them were like locusts passing through. Not even a blade of grass grew. Aside from the steels, the other divine herbs had already been drowned. Without air and sunlight, no living creature could survive here, except for water-type creatures like the octopus. The large water-type creatures were all eaten by the octopus, so the bottom of the lake was very safe. The two of them strolled around, wasting more than 10 days. With the help of the octopus, they collected all the steels in the underwater world and returned to the surface of the lake. Mining this mineral vein, we need to be faster. Yi Qinghan came to an independent island and picked all the 16-grade divine herbs. After picking a few 15-grade divine herbs, he divided the rest of the herbs among the others. The various experts rushed to the island and divided the herbs among themselves. Then, they began to mine. With more than 100 low-level experts working together, they could even dig up the heavens beyond heaven, let alone a mineral vein. There was no need for Yi Qinghan to do anything. The gold-devouring toad cooperated with them and excavated a large amount of mineral resources. The gold-devouring toad ate a portion, and the rest were taken by Yi Qinghan. The ones below 15 grade were all given to the experts of the various sections. This was the first time that the members of the heaven-crushing army had received money that they had worked so hard to earn. They were all inexplicably happy. Money that had been stolen and money that they had earned themselves were indeed different. Moreover, they had the most experts, so they would receive the most resources. Yi Qinghan looked at the countless rank 16 resources and grinned in excitement. Now that he had the rank 16 true dragon fire marrow, he could forge rank 16 sacred treasures, which were weapons that could only be used by middle-level cultivators. As long as it was combined with rank 16 occult law, it would have its own attack attribute. Under the same level, who could be a match for Guangzhong? What had originally been a sizable island had been dug into a deep pit. Yi Qinghan only brought everyone away when there were no more materials left. As they got closer and closer to the depths, more and more people from the powerful sects arrived. Naturally, the area they could move about in became smaller and smaller. When they reached the depths, the people from the powerful sects had already gathered. They were not like Zhang Shaoshan, who had only brought a small group of disciples to train. They were very scattered and could not even defeat the powerful small sections. Every powerful sect had more than 10 low-level experts. Some of the powerful sects were not inferior to the Holy Lands. They had many powerful disciples, and there were also a few low-level kings among the younger generation. Some of the powerful sects were like the Holy Lands, where the top 10 of the younger generation were all low-level experts. Any one of them could easily sweep through a region. The older generation's low-level experts did not even have a chance to speak in front of them. Old people should get lost. This is the world of the younger generation. If you dare to block the way again, I will kill you without mercy. A disciple from a powerful sect held a divine sword and pushed back a veteran low-level expert. The elders from the small sects were red with anger, but there was nothing they could do. Their talents were not as good as the disciples from the powerful sections. Although their cultivation was higher, the occult law they used was not small. They could not resist the disciples from the powerful sections. Boom! Whoosh! Battles were happening all the time. For the sake of treasures, blood flowed like rivers. Powerful disciples from the small sects were easily annihilated. The blood of experts was cold. Every king realm expert was stepping on corpses to advance. Scholar Shishua looked at the scene and became even more excited. He could not help but lick his lips. If it were not for Yi Qinghan holding him back, he would have rushed up and fought with those young kings. Boom! 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 The earth shook and dust flew. The immortal spirit's sacred grass was trampled to pieces. A large group of people rushed towards the insane sect. The leader was a powerful young man wearing the Red Water sect's uniform. A water dragon coiled around his body, making him look like an emperor. His aura was extraordinary and definitely surpassed Qi Shuihan's. Behind him sat a peerless beauty. The young man was handsome and had deep eyes. He rode on a ferocious beast that was dozens of meters tall. He looked down at Yi Qinghan and the others. His gaze swept past Qi Shuihan and he frowned. 12th Martial Uncle, why are you with this group of people? Qi Shuihan was frightened. He was really afraid that his martial nephew would fight with Yi Qinghan. He hurriedly introduced, Sect Master Yi, this is the chief disciple of my Red Water sect, the direct disciple of the sect master, Guosu. He's the #1 expert of the younger generation in our sect. He's a bit arrogant, please don't mind him. Yi Qinghan nodded and did not say anything. Qi Shuihan looked at Guosu's cold expression and secretly transmitted a message to remind him, Martial nephew, this is the sect master of insane sect, Yi Qinghan. Don't look down on him just because he's a sector lord 9th layer. Yi Luhen of the fierce army couldn't even resist after being kicked by him. His nephew, Lin Wuqian, could kill householder Shi Shui in one strike. This group of people is very crazy, let's not provoke them. Guo Su frowned and frowned. No matter how strong and arrogant he was, he didn't dare to say that he could instantly kill householder Shi Shui. Who didn't know that the fierce army was very strong? Yi Luhen was also an overlord of a region, but he couldn't even block one strike. After a few comparisons, he knew that he wasn't Yi Qinghan's opponent. So it's Sect Master Yi. I'm Guo Su of the Red Water Sect. Greetings, Mr. Yi. Guo Su was very smart. He immediately stepped down from the ferocious beast and cupped his fists. Yi Qinghan responded with a smile and said, "Fellow Taoist Guo, you're too polite. We're all young people, so there's no need to be so restrained. If you don't mind, we can join forces to explore this secret realm." Of course. There are a lot of resources in this secret realm. We can't take them all by ourselves. Moreover, we've already entered the white-hot stage. If we don't have a few trustworthy factions to join forces with, we really don't know if we can leave this secret realm alive, Guo Su said with a smile. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and said, "I like to deal with smart people. Since that's the case, let's join forces. We'll take the bigger share, and you guys will take the smaller share. Any objections?" Guo Su's breath stagnated. He looked at Qi Shuihen and nodded. He then replied, "It's all up to Sect Master Yi." At this time, the people from the Tai Lai sect and Mount Longhu also came. However, the people from Mount Longhu were more aggressive. They came up to Yi Qinghan to show off their strength. However, the person who attacked didn't even have time to get close before a sword light pierced his throat. Yi Qinghan didn't move at all. Lin Wuqian's sword had already returned to its scabbard. Note, flight is not allowed in Eternal World. This is explained from the very beginning. This is due to the suppression of the heavenly Tao. With the exception of eternal sovereigns and upper-level cultivators who can fly for a short period of time, the others can only rely on their divine powers to charge forward and leap with their fleshly body. Relying on explosive power to leap into the sky is something that cannot be broken. Given how high the cliff is and how far away it is, in order to cross it, one will need to build a bridge and build a ship. Naturally, the lower-level cultivators of the water system can walk on water. I can't figure out why cultivators are afraid of falling to their deaths. I feel like I don't have enough IQ to explain this. An ordinary person can fall to their death from a height of 10 meters, but it definitely can't kill an expert. However, since you can't fly in this great world, the gravity is definitely different. 100 meters high cliff can at least kill a realm lord. 1,000 meters deep cliff can at least kill a lower-level cultivator. This is why I built a bridge. Next time, if you don't understand, you can ask. There's no need to attack in the book review section. Chapter 1843. Boom! The corpse fell from the sky, and blood splattered on the ground, dyeing the mountain rocks red. Hiss! Hiss! The experts who approached sucked in a breath of cold air. Guo Su's expression changed slightly. From this sword strike, it could be seen that Lin Wuqian's cultivation was definitely higher than his. The expressions of the people from Mount Longhu changed drastically, and Long Lu frowned as he looked at them. Who told you to attack Sect Master Yi? Can't you see that I'm standing here? Do you think I'm dead? Long Lu rebuked angrily. Mount Longhu had lost a low-level cultivator, and Long Lu felt a little pained. Most importantly, this low-level cultivator had died unjustly. He did not even know how he died. The people from Mount Longhu were so scared that they did not dare to make a sound. The young man in the lead frowned and said unhappily, "Sixth uncle, I heard that you were captured, so I came to save you." "How did I offend you?" Long Lu snorted and said, "Do I look like I was captured?" I just followed Sect Master Yi for a period of time. Before Big Brother came, he specifically told you to keep a low profile in the secret realm. Why didn't you listen? Okay. Sixth uncle, I was meddling in other people's business. However, your friend killed an elder of Mount Longhu. It's not over just by apologizing. You're also the sixth leader of Mount Longhu. What do you think we should do? The young man in the lead was the son of the leader of Mount Longhu, Long Chen. He was usually arrogant and domineering, but his cultivation was indeed not bad, and his talent was also very good. He had received the true teachings of several leaders. Half of the 9 leaders of Mount Longhu were no match for him, so he had developed a habit of being arrogant. Long Lu frowned. He was worried that Yi Qinghan would not be so patient, so he immediately reprimanded, Chen, if Xie Zilong didn't make the first move, the people from the eccentric sect wouldn't have made a move. He's courting death, so he can't blame others. After I get out, I'll report today's matter to Big Brother. Take your people and leave first. Long Chen stared at Long Lu angrily and asked coldly, Sixth uncle, are you trying to betray Mount Longhu? How dare you? Long Chen, is this the attitude you should have when you talk to sixth uncle? Long Lu said angrily. Long Chen said with disdain, Sixth uncle, I only called you sixth uncle because I respect you. Otherwise, how are you worthy of being called sixth uncle? My father only gave you the position of sixth elder because he saw that you've been roaming the world with him since you were a child and founded Mount Longhu. In terms of cultivation, you're the weakest among the 9 elders. In terms of aptitude, you can't even compare to the majority of the younger generation of Mount Longhu. Today, a brother of Mount Longhu was killed, yet you actually spoke up for an outsider. Since that's the case, I'll expel you from Mount Longhu on behalf of my father. Long Lu's aura stagnated. He was so angry that he didn't know what to say. Yi Qinghan and the others did not say anything and allowed Long Chen to behave atrociously. Those who understood the might of the arrogant sect, such as Zhang Shaoshan, householder Shi Shui, and Guo Su from the Red Water sect, would not remind Long Chen. Who did not want the other powerful sects to fight and injure each other so that they could benefit from it. Long Lu was so angry that his entire body trembled. However, Long Chen was still disdainful as he said coldly, Brothers of Mount Longhu, the sixth elder has already betrayed us. He thinks that he's still from Mount Longhu, so follow me. If you're willing to follow Long Lu, I won't force you. However, once we leave the secret realm, Mount Longhu will naturally clean up the sect. Whoosh! The realm lord-level powerhouses who were originally following Long Lu all turned to Long Chen in an instant. There were a total of more than 2,000 people. However, nearly half of them were killed by the mutant octopus last time. Now, there were only a few left. More than 1,000 people crossed the arrogant sect's territory without hesitation and entered the crowd of Mount Longhu. Mount Longhu was still powerful. As disciples of Mount Longhu, they knew best that they did not want to be dealt with later. Yi Qinghan glanced at Long Lu and asked indifferently, Do you want me to help you deal with them? When Long Lu heard this, he hurriedly shook his head and said, Thank you for your kind intentions, Sect Master Yi. Long Chen's thoughts don't represent my big brother's thoughts. I'll explain it to him when I get out. Please show mercy, Sect Master Yi. After all, he's my nephew. Yi Qinghan snorted. He glanced at Long Chen with a cold gaze and said coldly, Take your people and get lost. I'll spare your lives today for Long Lu's sake. You won't be so lucky next time. Long Chen glanced at the people of the arrogant sect. There were so many small sects following them and there were also other strong sects protecting them. Naturally, he was unwilling to make a move, so he said domineeringly, It's a small world. We'll have the chance to meet again. I hope you still have the guts to say this next time. After saying this, Long Chen led the people from Mount Longhu and left forcefully. Long Chen took away more than 1,000 people from Mount Longhu, but Guosu brought more than 1,000 people. The total difference was not big. There were still about 10,000 miners, which was enough. The people of the Demon Dragon sect and the Tailai sect also gathered at this moment. They expressed strong dissatisfaction that Zhang Shaoshan and householder Shi Shui had brought their sect's powerhouses to join a small sect and did not get the lion's share of the benefits. They strongly requested to change the distribution and wanted to get the lion's share. The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth curled up. He looked coldly at Zhang Shaoshan and householder Shi Shui and said, "Those who don't want to work for me can leave. I'm not unreasonable. You've been with me for so long, and I've never treated you unfairly. I can also pretend that the 1,000-year agreement from back then never happened." Zhang Shaoshan and householder Shi Shui had long been convinced by Yi Qinghan over the years. How could they want to leave? However, they could not dissuade the elders and powerhouses of their respective sections. They could only send their subordinates back to their sects and choose to follow Yi Qinghan alone. What an idiot! Shaoshan, my sect has cultivated you so much in vain. You're the dignified chief disciple, yet you're actually following a small sect that came out of nowhere. Your horizons are so limited. You can't be trained. When I return this time, I'll report to the sect master and strip you of your status as the chief disciple. The elder of the Tailai sect reprimanded coldly. After saying that, the elder of the Tailai sect also left, leaving Zhang Shaoshan dejected. Householder Shi Shui was used to being domineering, so the powerhouses of the Demon Dragon sect did not dare to say anything. They only took away the disciples of the Demon Dragon sect and quickly left. As a result, the number of miners of the Maniac sect instantly decreased by more than 3,000, leaving less than 6,000. It doesn't matter. Quantity is quality, not quantity. Moreover, with fewer miners, there will naturally be fewer people and more resources. I'm sure you'll be very happy. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. This was not bad. Now, the happiest ones were the small sections. If they followed Yi Qinghan, they would not be in any danger at all unless they encountered a middle-level cultivator. Furthermore, they would receive a lot of resources. The Maniac sect standards were very high. They did not want any resources below 15th grade and even paid extra. Such a good thing would not happen again. Those who want to go, go. Those who don't want to go, follow us. Let's continue to go deeper. Yi Qinghan patted the head of the purple gold tiger king and motioned for it to move forward. The Maniac sect led a large number of people and continued to go deeper. The gold-devouring toad kept on giving out warning sounds. It seemed that the mineral veins in the depths were really rich. Yi Qinghan quickly found a place and forcibly drove some of the cultivators away. The atmosphere suddenly became oppressive and tense, causing many of the powerful sects to be displeased. They stared at the Kuang Zone with unkind eyes. Chapter 1844. Get lost. An angry roar resounded through the sky. The Kuang Zone was extremely aggressive. No matter if it was a strong sect or a small sect, they would kick them out first. Some of the strong sects were stunned and were inexplicably swept out by the Kuang Zone's dauntless army. Large areas of mineral veins were occupied and guarded by strong cultivators. The sector lords began to harvest the resources. The high-class sacred items belonged to the Kuang Zone. As long as they harvested them, they would get a share of the salary. Everyone was in high spirits and had a strong sense of belonging. After the divine herbs were harvested, Yi Qinghan ordered all the strong cultivators to finish the battle quickly and start mining. Some of the strong sects paid special attention to the Kuang Zone and found that they were able to find the mineral veins accurately without wasting any time. They have the gold-devouring toad. A strong cultivator muttered to himself. Obviously, there was more than one force that had such suspicions. There were many strong sections. No one can pinpoint the exact location of the mineral veins for the sacred implement materials. These people must have the gold-devouring toad. Not interested in joining forces to kill the Guangzong. I don't believe that this motley crew will sincerely join forces. Without benefits, they are just a bunch of bugs. As for the dauntless army, ha ha ha. They are the ones who have real benefits. As long as we join forces, they will definitely follow us and rebel against the Guangzong. A group of elders from the strong sects gathered and spoke without restraint. The Shanlan clan is willing to help. Is there anyone else who wants to help? A strong middle-aged man asked in a deep voice. The Yang Tian Valley is willing to help. Whoosh. If more than 10 strong sects joined forces, even the sacred grounds would have to retreat, let alone the Guangzong. In a short while, 8 strong sects declared that they were ready to suppress the Guangzong and fight for the gold-devouring toad. As for the gold-devouring toad, everyone could share it temporarily. At this moment, the people from the Guangzong were busy mining. They did not care about these people's little tricks behind their backs. If they really fought, they were not afraid of these people. The strongest point of the Guangzong was not their high cultivation, but their fearlessness of death. Would these strong cultivators be willing to die? Would they dare to fight? Yi Qinghan quietly worked as the mine manager. He did not seem to pay attention to those outside cultivators. But in a dangerous place, how could he not pay attention? Yi Qinghan stared at the group of people as they gathered to discuss. This group of bastards actually dared to have designs on us. Do you want to kill them? The divine bird had a dignified appearance as it glared at the group of people and said. Yi Qinghan licked his lips and said in a low voice, strong sects are indeed strong sections. They won't be easy to deal with. Once they gather their forces, and with so many strong sects joining forces, they will far outnumber us. It won't be easy to fight them. We have a mid-level ferocious creature. Why should we be afraid of them? The divine bird said smugly. Yi Qinghan was taken aback at the mention of the mid-level mutated octopus. He had almost forgotten about it. He couldn't help but smile. Either we don't make a move this time, or we wipe out all the nearby forces in one fell swoop. Yi Qinghan said with a cold glint in his eyes. The ferocious expression made the divine bird tremble, and it hurriedly gave a flattering smile. Boom. Whoosh. Just as the mine was being mined halfway, there was a deafening explosion. Golden light filled the sky, as though a treasure had appeared. Sect leader Yi, there's a treasure. Qi Shuihen suddenly shouted. Shua! Yi Qinghan quickly rushed to the mine. In the depths of the mine, countless sector lord-level experts had been killed. Even the experts on the periphery had been knocked unconscious. Some of the lower realms were in a daze, their faces full of fear. What's going on? Yi Qinghan immediately asked. There's a divine weapon inside. I can't tell what grade it is, but it contains a special pressure. It should be from the previous civilization. Qi Shuihen immediately said. Yi Qinghan stepped into the mine entrance. Many injured people supported each other as they walked out. Their bodies were covered in blood, and their eyes were full of fear and despair. The cave was dazzling with golden light, and the pressure spread out in all directions. Yi Qinghan held the Rui bell and stepped in. However, the Rui bell kept on vibrating. It was as though the ceiling was about to collapse. Its sword intent. Yi Qinghan immediately felt a special sword aura. It was very similar to the sword intent emitted by the Green Lotus sword song. It made one's hair stand on end. Wuxian, come and condense your sword intent. See if you can calm the divine weapon inside. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He didn't dare to force his way in. Otherwise, if the mountain collapsed, he would be buried alive. Lin Wuxian quickly walked over and put his palms together. His entire body emitted sword aura. A green lotus appeared in his palm, emitting a dense holy aura. It kept on rushing into the mine. The sound of a sword came out from the cave, majestic and mighty. Hua! The surrounding sand and stones were swept up and smashed into the stone walls. The stone walls were penetrated. Lin Wuqian suddenly lost consciousness and walked into the cave with a confused expression. Gu Qingyu and the others hurriedly reached out to hold him, but Yi Qinghan stopped them. Don't worry. It should be the divine weapon inside calling him. The sword intent emitted by him and the divine weapon has a will. It should be inherited, Yi Qinghan said solemnly. Dong! 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 Lin Wuqian walked deeper into the cave. The light in the cave became thicker and thicker. The profound laws filled the air. The sword aura was so strong that the sword experts didn't dare to draw their swords. There were sector lord level miners lying everywhere in the cave. Most of them were just unconscious. Only the weakest were dead. Their souls were shaken to death. There was also a group of people who were scared to death by the sword aura. The divine sword in the cave was at least a high-grade holy artifact. It was very likely that it was personally forged by an eternal sovereign. It contained supreme power. The sound of the sword became more and more urgent. The ground rumbled and the mountain shook. It could collapse at any time. Lin Wuqian involuntarily stepped into the depths. It was a tomb. However, the miners had unconsciously opened it up. A divine sword was inserted in front of the tombstone, emitting golden light. Whoosh! Just as Lin Wuqian appeared, a low voice resounded in his sea of consciousness. You're finally here, the inheritor I've been waiting for countless years. Don't throw away the soul of Green Lotus Sword Song. Boom! Hua! The divine sword suddenly shone with golden light. It was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. Lin Wuqian was in a daze. Then, the divine sword rushed into his sea of consciousness and turned into a sharp sword hanging at the top of the dome. It could slash down at any time and destroy thousands of miles. Boom! Boom! The ground trembled. The mountain peak was on the verge of collapsing. Wuqian, come out quickly. Yi Qinghan roared. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian was awakened by Yi Qinghan's words and quickly rushed out. Boom! The moment Lin Wuqian came out, the entire mountain collapsed. Hundreds of experts were buried alive. They had already lost consciousness. Now, they would die without a doubt after being smashed like that. Chapter 1845. Even Yi Qinghan felt the pain of losing so many masters at once, not to mention the smaller sections. Let's open up the mountain and rescue them first. I will pay the settlement fee for those who have died. Each life is worth 500,000 strands of faith. The insane sect will treat the seriously injured and compensate according to their injuries, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Many elders of the small sects were instantly filled with gratitude. After all, the majority of those who had died were from the small sections. Sector lords were the cornerstones of their sections. If they wanted to nurture a sector lord, they would have to spend a large amount of money. With Yi Qinghan's words, thousands of people rushed up and began to dig up the mountain. At this moment, Shanlan's clan, Yangtian Valley, and more than a dozen other powerful sects surrounded them. Their auras soared into the sky. Each of them sent out more than a dozen lower-level powerhouses, which meant that there were more than 100 lower-level powerhouses. To deal with the Kuang sect, they could definitely suppress them with numbers. Unfortunately, the Kuang sect had more than one middle-level master. Lin Wuqian had advanced to the middle level, and the mutated octopus was at the peak of the middle level. With the two of them working together, they could destroy so many masters. Yi Qinghan tapped the Rui bell with his fingertips. He smiled evilly as he looked at the group of masters and the young sector lords. He said in a low voice, "Kill them all." Qi Shuihen, Zhang Shaoshan, and the others were shocked. If they killed so many masters at once, they would definitely suffer bloody revenge. Sect leader Yi, you can't do that. There are at least 3,000 of them and 100 lower-level masters. If you kill them all, the sects will go crazy. Qi Shuihen quickly reminded. Humph. Yi Qinghan snorted. So what if they go crazy? What can they do to me? Zhang Shaoshan and the others knew how strong the crazy zone was. Lin Wuqian was a mid-level elite, and he was the only mid-level elite in the Hidden Lands. He was invincible, and he had the help of the Xenogeneic octopus. He didn't need anyone else to help him, and he could beat them all on his own. At this moment, Zhang Shaoshan, Qi Shuihen, and the others were worried for this group of people. Unfortunately, that group of people did not know what was good for them and surrounded the people of the Kuang sect. Brat, hand over the gold-devouring toad and the divine weapon you just obtained from the mountain, and we'll spare your life. A great expert from the Shanglong family said coldly. Another expert said in a domineering tone, hand over all the resources you've obtained over the past few days, and we'll spare your life. Ha ha ha, everyone from the Kuang sect laughed as if they were looking at wealth in front of them. With so many experts, if they could kill them all, there would be a lot of resources and wealth in their storage rings. What an idiot. How dare you spout nonsense when you don't understand the situation? The divine bird mocked in disdain. Yi Qinghan licked his lips and revealed a sinister smile that sent chills down everyone's spine. Kill. I support you. Scholar Shi Shui smiled evilly. Alright, I'll leave the sector lords to you. The resources in their hands, you can take however many you kill. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and said. No problem. My demon dragon sect isn't afraid of them. Scholar Shi Shui was indeed the master of the bloodthirsty force. She agreed without hesitation. Yi Qinghan looked at Lin Wuqian and asked in a low voice, can you deal with them alone? Lin Wuqian waved his hand and the divine weapon he got from the mountain appeared in his hand. It emitted an earth-shaking pressure as if it could shatter the world when it was unsheathed. Don't worry. I only need one sword. It's enough. I don't need the little slave beast's help, Lin Wuqian said aggressively. Yi Qinghan smiled, his eyes raking through the warriors. He stretched his voice and said, then. Let's start. The divine sword was unsheathed. Sword chi shot up to the sky. Green lotuses bloomed, which could take people's lives from 1,000 meters away. Swoosh. 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 Ah! Lin Wuqian was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. His aura shot up to the sky as he entered the group of lower realm warriors. He killed one with each step. Blood flowed like a river. His sword chi carried a destructive will. No one could resist his sword. Boom! Bang! Some warriors managed to block it in time, but they were even more desperate. The pseudo-sacred weapons in their hands could not block the sword. They were split open or pierced through. Screams of pain could be heard. Many people began to scream in fear as they tried to escape. Some of them wanted to break through Lin Wuqian's defense and kill the crazy sect. Yi Qinghan's foot slightly staggered, and power rose from the ground and gathered at his waist. It traveled through his limbs and bones, and finally gathered at the center of his right fist. Flames burned in his eyes, and the flames of a true dragon flickered in his eyes. When he saw an expert charging at him, he stomped his foot, causing the ground to crack. Boom! Yi Qinghan's iron fist rushed out like a whirlpool with dragon-shaped flames. The terrifying temperature burned the opponent's pseudo-sacred weapon into nothingness. Boom! Ah! The warrior watched as the pseudo-sacred weapon in his hand turned into molten iron and fell to the ground. His right arm disappeared from the impact. The piercing pain shrouded his soul. He could not help but howl to the sky. Bang! Whoosh! A punch pierced through the chest of a lower realm warrior. His body was torn apart and blood dyed the mountains and rivers red. Yi Qinghan retracted his fist as if he had never attacked. His face was expressionless. The lower realm warriors were drenched in cold sweat. One punch to kill a lower realm warrior. This was the power of a middle realm warrior. Dead silence. The lower realm warriors of the smaller sects were all stunned. They looked at Yi Qinghan in horror. Lin Wuqian was able to sweep through the lower realm because of his realm and the support of his sacred weapon. This was equivalent to a professional player bullying an amateur player. However, Yi Qinghan was a 9th-level sector lord and he was able to sweep through the lower realm. This was equivalent to an amateur player beating a professional player. No one could accept this. Scholar Shi Shui was shocked by Yi Qinghan. Her Dao heart was almost shattered. She even forgot to attack. If you still don't make a move, all the sector lord level cultivators will escape. Yi Qinghan lightly reminded. Scholar Shi Shui woke up. She realized that the sector lord warriors had abandoned the elders of the various sects and families. They had all escaped. She immediately pulled out her sword and chased after them. It was easy for a lower realm warrior to kill a sector lord. It was even easier than a middle realm warrior killing a lower realm warrior. Xiu xiu xiu. Scholar Shi Shui began to devour lives. She was like a human meat grinder. She swept across 1,000 meters. The crazy sect people did not pay much attention to the battle. Instead, they ordered the smaller sects to dig out the mountain and save the injured. The smell of blood filled the air. Screams filled the air. Lin Wuqian was like the sun in the sky. He killed more than 100 lower realms without any resistance. He basically killed one person with one sword. Their eyes were filled with despair and unwillingness when they died. I thought middle realm warriors were not allowed to appear. Many people died with their eyes wide open. They screamed in despair. Crazy sect, you dare to challenge the rules. You will die a horrible death. The remaining people had no hope of escaping. They could only curse in despair. Puchi. Lin Wuqian was emotionless. His sword swung in all directions. The green lotus sword song swept across with destructive sword chi, reaping the lives of the people. Every corpse was perfectly preserved. Only the throat or heart had a thin sword wound. Fresh blood gradually flowed out. Chapter 1846. Lin Wuqian single-handedly swept through hundreds of experts. No one was able to contend against him. His cultivation realm and battle prowess far surpassed countless people of the same realm. Lin Wuqian might even be able to contend against Xia Jiulong. Even if he couldn't, he would be able to do so after 3,000 to 5,000 years. As time passed, surpassing Xia Jiulong wouldn't be a problem. The corpses piled up. The distance between each corpse was less than 20 meters. Some were even 3 to 5 meters apart. One could see how long Lin Wuqian needed to kill a lower-level realm expert. After killing the last expert, Lin Wuqian sheathed his divine sword. His face was calm as if he had just killed some ants. Yi Qinghan nodded silently. Lin Wuqian's strength was already not bad. However, compared to the young eternal sovereigns, he was still lacking. Lin Wuqian's face was filled with excitement. He was like a child asking for credit. He walked over with a face full of smiles. Yi Qinghan smiled. With a wave of his hand, he released the star-twining vine. With so many experts' corpses, there was an endless amount of blood essence energy. He couldn't waste it. The star-twining vine devoured the flesh and blood of the experts. 30 to 50 vines coiled around the corpse of a lower realm expert, while 3 to 5 vines coiled around the corpse of a sector lord, absorbing the energy with all their might. Countless vines turned blood red, and one could even see blood flowing and gathering at the main vine. The star-twining vine was like a bottomless pit. It absorbed the blood essence of the corpses while collecting the storage rings. It sent them all to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan only needed to be responsible for collecting the storage rings. The hard work was naturally left to the star-twining vine. The star-twining vine was so excited that its main vine jumped. At this moment, Scholar Shi Shui had killed close to 1,000 sector lords. The rest had already escaped. The lopsided battle had ended. Scholar Shi Shui was overjoyed as she rummaged through the corpses of the sector lords. She kept all the storage rings in her arms. The other small sects were envious and regretful. If they had fought together with Scholar Shi Shui, the life savings of these sector lords would have been theirs. Yi Qinghan did not intend to kill them all, so he did not stop them as he watched them escape. At this time, the disciples of the small sects had already moved the collapsed mountain away, saving more than 10 sector lords who were hiding in the cracks. There was also a group of heavily injured experts. About 80 people had died, and they were all disciples of the small sections. Report the number of deaths, names, sects, and families. We'll give you the settlement allowance later. Yi Qinghan looked at the deformed corpses and couldn't help but sigh. It was really hard to accept losing so many people at once. Although they weren't from Guangzhou, they were now serving Guangzhou. Thank you, Sect Master Yi. The elders of the small sects cupped their fists in gratitude. Yi Qinghan stared at these elders and said in a deep voice, since it's a settlement allowance, I hope that you will distribute the money I gave them to their families. Don't be greedy for some money. Of course. Rest assured, Sect Master Yi. If we are greedy for the settlement allowance of our disciples, how can we cultivate to this level? Everyone expressed their opinions. Soon, everyone reported the details of the number of casualties. Jian Qinxue did a rough calculation. A total of 5 million strands of faith money would be paid as settlement allowance. As for the injured, they would have to compensate 1 million strands of faith money, and the healing pills would be calculated separately. After the calculation, she reported the situation. Yi Qinghan looked at the numbers roughly and searched for faith money in the storage rings of the dead lower realms. He found that these elders of powerful sects were actually so rich. Any one of them had tens of millions of faith money in their storage rings. Yi Qinghan simply increased the compensation and settlement allowance by 3 times. It could be considered as using other people's money to buy people's hearts. Everyone was pleasantly surprised and felt that they had followed the right person. Some of the disciples of the small sects could not wait to join the crazy sect and work for Yi Qinghan. Unfortunately, the crazy sect did not need useless people. At least relatively speaking, their talents were far from what Yi Qinghan wanted. As I said, you won't suffer losses if you follow me. I won't force those who are willing to leave. I will treat those who stay as my own people. Yi Qinghan said calmly with a solemn face and his hands behind his back. Thank you, Sect Master Yi. We will do our best to serve Sect Master. The young master said happily. Zhang Shaoshan and Guosu couldn't help but take a deep look at Yi Qinghan. This was the spirit of a sect master. His way of doing things was definitely not petty. With such a way of doing things, which disciple wouldn't want to follow him wholeheartedly? This person's realm is not very high, but he looks very powerful. The little beauty behind Guosu whispered to Guosu. 2 lines of cold sweat appeared on Guosu's forehead. Did this little girl not see Yi Qinghan's attack just now? He killed a lower-level cultivator with a single punch. Which lower-level cultivator could do that? She actually said that his realm was not very high. Yuhan, what were you doing just now? Didn't you see him attack? Guosu pulled the little beauty over and asked with a bitter smile. Brother Su, I just went to pick a flower. What happened? Did he attack? Zhang Yuhan was the name of this little beauty. Just like her name, she was a budding flower waiting to blossom. She was young yet beautiful, as if a brand new life was being born. Her skin was as white as jade, and her entire person was like a porcelain doll. She was Guo Su's childhood sweetheart, and they had been engaged since they were young. They had been inseparable all these years, and their relationship was very good. At this moment, Zhang Yuhan looked at Guo Su with a puzzled face and then looked at Yi Qinghan. She always felt that Guo Su was the strongest among his peers. No one could compare to him. That kind of blind worship came from love. Cough, cough. It's okay. We won't provoke this abnormal person in the future. You look after him and stay away from him, Guo Su whispered. Yi Qinghan glanced at the two indifferently and shrugged. He then shifted his gaze to the deep pit. A place where a divine weapon was born must be a big grave. Open the grave. Everyone, be careful. A real big grave has a lot of traps. Step by step. We have a lot of time, but we only have one life, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Then, Yi Qinghan led Lin Wuxian forward to look at the tombstone. It didn't look like a big grave. The tombstones were very short. It was only because the earth's crust moved that this grave was covered by a tall mountain. The grave was somewhat distorted and the tombstones were almost broken. Yi Qinghan searched carefully and found a set of skeletons. They hadn't rotted yet and were still emitting the profound mysteries of the laws. They should have been top experts before they died. Yi Qinghan quickly deduced, the owner of this divine sword should be this set of skeletons. If I'm not wrong, this person was seriously injured when he escaped and hid in the grave. Finally, he exhausted his strength and put the last of his will into the divine sword. As for this person's identity, he should be the disciple or son of the great Shang world's creator. Lin Wuxian thought for a moment and nodded. This sword indeed has the inheritance of the Green Lotus Sword Song. Chapter 1847. Inside the secret realm, the atmosphere was murderous. Occasionally, a roar could be heard from the depths of the secret realm. Yi Qinghan had already led the crowd into the depths of the secret realm. It was time to fight for the strongest resources. In some dangerous places, middle-level monsters would appear from time to time. They could easily destroy the heavens and the earth, killing and injuring countless powerhouses. Yi Qinghan was very lucky. So far, he had not met anyone from the sacred ground, nor did he meet any upper-level monsters. Otherwise, this group of people would not be able to survive. Just as the bloody battle was going on inside the secret realm, the atmosphere outside the secret realm was also extremely oppressive. In the sky-reaching school, the powerhouses of the top 3 schools were staring at Fozhen Overlord. There was only one Fozhen Overlord. In terms of numbers, he had an absolute advantage. In terms of cultivation, he did not necessarily have an advantage. At this moment, he stood in the camp of the Kuang sect and waited alone. He had no intention of leaving. Xia Jiulong stood aside and watched the show. The others would not interfere. The dean of the interception school, Wen Su, was a genius of the same era as Fozhen Overlord. He alone could fight against Fozhen Overlord. Wen Su's face was flushed red. His aura and immortal techniques filled the air. He had an immortal aura that made people involuntarily want to submit to him. At this moment, his eyes were filled with divine light. He stood not far from the camp of the Kuang sect and stared at Fozhen Overlord. There were 2 elders next to Wen Su. They were both at the top of the upper level. Any one of them could destroy an area. These 2 were none other than Hong Courtyard and Dao Courtyard of Transcending Heaven Cult's 3 great courtyards. The old man from Dao Courtyard was the strongest. His aura was profound, making it impossible for others to see through him. He had complete control over Taoist techniques. One technique could derive 10,000 techniques, and 10,000 techniques were natural. He was a supreme existence under the eternal sovereign realm. People called him Nine Extreme Taoist. The Hong school studied the extremes of heaven, earth, and man. The dean of the Hong school was called Wanhong Holy Man Wensu, Wanhong Holy Man, and Jiu Ji Taoist priest were the disciples of the sky-reaching school. Once the three supreme powerhouses appeared, no one dared to fight against them. Xia Jiulong was in a high position. But when he met the three of them, he always had to treat them like a disciple. Faz Hen, you have escaped for so many years. It's time to go to the cave of punishment with me. Wen Su bowed and said in a deep voice. What crime have I committed? Even if I'm guilty, do you have the right to judge me? Faz Hen held the deity-slaying sword with a murderous look on his face. If it wasn't for the fact that there were so many of them, he would have attacked long ago. What crime? When you were the left guardian of the heavenly demon cult, you massacred 3,000 cities, burned 1 trillion lives, and killed countless people. This is a crime. The heavenly reaching church upholds the order of the world, and as the enforcers, we have the right to judge. Lord Faz Hen, you will be executed today. On account of your many years of cultivation, I will spare your life as long as you sincerely repent and use 10,000 years to make up for your mistakes. Otherwise, I will kill you today. Wanhong Holy Man of the Grand Courtyard replied silently. Ha ha ha, Faz Hen Demon Ancestor laughed out loud and looked at the experts within 1,000 miles in disdain. He asked coldly, may I ask, which one of you doesn't have hands stained with blood? Wanhong, Wensu, Jiu Ji, have the three of you never killed anyone? Don't you have a single person who died in vain? A general success is built on 10,000 corpses. If that's the case, then wouldn't the Supreme Eternal Sovereign have committed a heinous crime? Faz Hen Demon Ancestor's voice was deafening. As soon as he said that, Wan Xiong's face changed. Only the Eternal Sovereigns would dare to say that the Supreme Eternal Sovereigns were right or wrong, and that they had sinned. How could they have the right to judge them? Faz Hen. Your words are too much. Xia Jiulong reprimanded coldly. Have I? They used such a ridiculous crime to convict me, and you, the Crown Prince of the Holy Empire of the Middle Earth, didn't even say a word. What right do you have to accuse me now? Faz Hen Demon Ancestor questioned coldly. Is it because there's no one left in the heavenly demon cult, and you bully me because I'm old and powerless? Since you refuse to admit your crimes, then I will kill you in the name of revenge. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Buzz. Jiu Ji Taoist's immortal feather shot out a rainbow light that covered the sky. It contained the ultimate law of heaven and earth, and the rainbow light was like the descent of a deity, enveloping the insane sect. The god-slaying sword was unsheathed, and the sword light whistled. It contained a trace of green lotus chi, and it swept across the area. However, it was fundamentally different from Lin Wuqian's sword chi. Fashion's talent was exhausted, and even if he had the complete version of the Green Lotus sword song for him to comprehend, he would not be able to comprehend anything. Boom! The sword light and the immortal light collided, and the two of them fought in the blink of an eye. The energy rushed into the clouds, and it was impossible to distinguish their figures. Fortunately, the weakest cultivators outside the secret realm were in the middle level. The upper-level cultivators stood at the top of the mountain and watched the show. They were especially excited to see two supreme cultivators fight. Wanhong Holy Man and Wensu did not attack, and they were only responsible for preventing him from escaping. They had absolute confidence in Jiu Ji Taoist strength. Boom boom boom. The supreme immortal spell went against the massacre sword Dao, and the middle-level cultivators were all shocked. Whoosh! A ray of sword light swept across the ground, and a mountain was flattened. The insane sect was razed to the ground. Boom! Rays of immortal light swept past, and immortal music attacked Fozhen Demon Lord's soul. The mysteries of the Tao continued to attack Fozhen Demon Lord. This was the supreme soul attack, and it had a purifying effect. Fozhen Demon Lord's sword was obviously a little stagnant, and there was something in his Tao heart that was suppressed. However, when the immortal light swept past, the mysteries of the Tao could break through the shackles, and he wanted to see the sun, but he could not break through the darkness. Jiu Ji Taoist was indeed the pinnacle of the Tao. The stars moved, and he broke through the void, and turned into a huge hand that covered the sky. You have a demon in your heart, surrender. Boom! The huge hand formed by the Tao slammed towards Fozhen Holy Man. This roar shocked Fozhen Demon Lord, and he suddenly wanted to surrender. However, his main body instinctively pulled out his sword, and this pause gave Jiu Ji Taoist a chance. Whoosh! His figure flashed, and a soft sword appeared in his hand. It broke through time and space, and appeared directly on Fozhen Demon Lord's neck. Immeasurable Heavenly Lord. Fozhen, you're not in the mood to fight. If you don't know your mistakes, why do you have to do this? Jiu Ji Taoist said firmly. Fozhen Demon Lord did not understand what was going on. His face instantly aged 1,000 years, and the divine sword in his hand fell into the valley. His body fell, and he was pressed down into the valley by Jiu Ji Taoist. Boom! Fozhen Demon Lord half knelt in the valley, and the god-killing sword beside him hummed softly, as if it wanted to wake its master up. However, he seemed to be very tired, and did not want to resist at all. I deserve it, and I'm willing to be executed. However, the insane sect has nothing to do with me, so don't make things difficult for them, Fozhen Demon Lord said in a low voice. Wen Su and the rest looked at each other and shook their heads. Before they came, they had already informed the disciples of the top 3 schools to kill any disciple of Fozhen Demon Lord. They were probably already dead. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.